Wind it down and get back in our seats. Strap on the seat belt. Put on your helmet. There's gonna be some Scud missiles flying from the rostrum. How's everybody feeling? Great. Wonderful. If anybody is just getting in, we've been going since about 3. This is our 2014 Aboriginal Summit, our 4th summit. And we wanted to come and bring some speakers out and talk about the only subject that we avoid, which is statehood and self-government as a remedy to the group problem of the said African American. That is our subject. And I'm going to speak and then we'll have a panel discussion. Now, brothers and sisters, our folk who take their time out to come to these particular sessions and watch them online, we're all concerned about our present and our future. All of us can honestly say with some of the things that we see go on and the nature of them with our people, we're very concerned. However, when we get to attempting to work out remedy, oftentimes we disassociate from organizations or groups because somebody always wants you to do something that is against your will or your nature. You know, they want you to worship their God or give them the money and they disappear or whatever it may be. That happens because we are not under a structure where we can control and manage the dysfunctional behaviors that we've learned and put us in a framework so that we can have everybody's voice heard. That is what is sold to you in the United States of America, that your voice can be heard by voting. Going further, Brother Taft did a great presentation today, but it's even said that we can get together as a group and have that jurisdictional identity and then move ourselves into voting using that election power to change our communities, similar to other communities. I defer on both of those statements. I defer because there's no group that has experienced what we have experienced as a people. So some of the remedy that we afford for ourselves is true. We need the plebiscites, we need the jurisdictional identities, we need those things, but there are greater things that we need than those things. And they become evident when you measure our behavior as a people. The lack of resources is a socio-political problem, an economic problem, and a cultural problem. And these problems that we see arising, we have to take a look at them and get a better measurement of who exactly we are as these problems arise. They may be health problems. Somebody in here may be sick right now. The only reason you're sick is because you follow Europeans. There is no other reason. You can make it up. You can say my habits are bad. Then try to get good habits, and what you're going to do when you try to get good habits is go to sources that are going to tell you, take these vitamins, take these herbs, you'll get better. And sometimes you do get a little bit better, but you find problems reoccurring. Or we haven't made the connections between the physical problems and the psychosocial problems. Our mind works, the body is sick, the mind is sick. The mind is sick, the body is sick. Those two go together. So when we say we're indigenous peoples and we're searching for an indigenous socio-political identity, we're also searching for an indigenous cultural identity. And oftentimes we throw the second one away, searching after the first one, right? And we get into groups and we find out that our progress is stagnated, right? Because of feelings, emotions, and how we design those structures within themselves. Those structures are designed like Europeans design their structures. And our mind and our design doesn't fit them. And the evidence is they always fail. Or if they don't fail, we stay in them and we become dysfunctional believers in something that does not reward each individual and the group itself with rewards. It might reward one man who's calling himself the new Jesus figure or messianic figure or whatever, but the group is suffering. All of this is what you get as an output of colonization. Or a better term might be denationalization. You break up people's political entities in ancient America and indigenous Africa, and you get these particular things. All right? And we bring these energies, these mindsets, these behaviors to our marriages, or relationships or partnerships, and we bring them to our organizations. So in bringing all of that dysfunction, some functional, but a lot of it dysfunctional, the result in the mathematics will always be mass failure with small successes. Right? But we can change that. How we change that is good strategy, and good strategy has to be well-rounded. In order for you to get out of the situations with Europeans, you have to find out how you got in the first place. What were the causation factors? What type of analysis can you make on those things and make the gradual connections as a group? Those things being done takes time and patience, and it doesn't take everybody. It just takes a critical mass of people who are healthy enough to do so. And we're kind of coming to that point. The people who come out of distress are the worst people. Because once that distress is usually met, you might have a contract problem, a mortgage problem, some other issues going on, no friends, I don't know. It could be anything. They don't come for the development of themselves, they come for a need. And once that need is met, the European identity kicks back in, and they roll out. Sayonara. Thank you for that affidavit, brother. I'm out. I'm going back to the club. I'm going to watch LeBron. I'm going to listen to Lil Wayne. Whatever I'm going to do is not in the design of the group's success. It's in the design of how I've been taught and trained from conception, from in the womb, from out of the womb. This is what you're dealing with when you face the said African American. If you call yourself attempting to do extracurricular activities in your life and assist them with some change. This is what you have to deal with. You have to know you're going to deal with that in order for disappointment not to set in. Because disappointment sets in relationships, in organizations, etc., when you have a false expectation and you don't know what you're looking at. But if you have a better idea of what you're looking at, you'll be more patient and more understanding and empathetic and more progressive at implementing the things gradually that some will take. Everybody's not going to take those things. So we're here to talk about statehood, but we don't know what statehood is. We think statehood is what white people set up. White people set up fictions to parasite off of the majority on the planet. None of their techniques work for us. They can be studied because they did copy a lot of what we have, but you can't study a parasite in order to understand how a cell is supposed to properly function. You have to study the cell to see what is the normal functioning and then what caused the parasite to even have a place to inhabit the body. So we're studying the dysfunctional aspects, trying to get to the functional, instead of getting to the studying the functional to understand where the dysfunction happened. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And you have to look at your life to see whether you're that type of person. Sure, you might get a job making $100,000, $200,000 a year. half a million, whatever, and you might be all right. But that cocaine habit is going to set in. Or any other habit that you have because the homeostasis is not in. So we're here to talk about statehood, but do we know what statehood is? Democracy. Democracy is only Christianity well formed into a socio-political identity. That's all it is. And if you have the litmus test to test it, you can see. Democracy is impulsive. It's impulsively pressed upon people by Europeans. The idea that they have behind it is you create a free market economy, you allow people to have rights, right, through a socio-political entity, and people elect their people into office, and everybody goes home happy. That's what you're told. Yet, that type of democracy that they're talking about right there does not exist anywhere except around some indigenous people somewhere on the planet. That's the only way you can find that democracy. The democracy that we're chasing after, whether it be free market, whether it be some of these other titles that they use for it, communism, socialism in the way that they are orchestrated today, are crime families who fund the operations for people who do not know how to operate their lives themselves. Enough to protect themselves from that infringing force. So they bow. That's the democracy that you're experiencing. And it's fully deceptive. It has two issues. It must suppress the majority of the people on the planet of hue, the melanin-dominant people, the family. So anywhere in society in the world where someone has a different, check this out now, a different ideological framework for how their family runs, the United States ends up attacking those particular people in that nation. That's what you need to look for. Not oil, not who has the water or whatever. It's the ideological framework that is a threat to the dominant parasite on the planet, which is the democracy that is being perpetuated by white males. Here. So we're gonna give ourselves some litmus tests. All right? See if I can get this working. All right. First thing is, you can't talk about government without talking about your health. You're lost. You're already lost. Because if your body is filled with spores, parasites, fungus, and viruses, you're bound to be dysfunctional. And there's no Europeans telling African-based biologies or indigenous peoples the truth about how to take care of their bodies. Men, women, and children. Not one. You got the microbiotic diet, you got the probiotic diet. You got all kinds of things going on. Even the veganism. But they don't address the number one factor. The number one factor is the carbon-based body that you have inherited as the first people on this orb that we call the Earth. And you call those carbon compounds melanin. And that melanin is not just a biochemical essence in your tissues. It is a photoelectric frequency that resonates from the sun. It is the black melanated gas that surrounds every orb that you call space. It, in fact, is the force that gave birth to everything in this universe. And if it's a force that gave birth to everything in the universe, using the sun as the local distributor of the energy, you being a sun-based people, anything in the culture that is against the holding together of the biosynthesis of melanin is a signature of your dysfunction or possible dysfunction. Anything. Including the stuff you put in your hair when you can't get it done. That you don't know what's in it, which types of male or female pheromones are being used by that company, whether it's causing signal switching in your home or not, or suppressing the man or the female. You need the type of institutions that can do that kind of work. Do you have them? Ain't that many. If not, we might be the only ones that are doing that kind of work in art. So by the time you get to the table to have a discussion, instead of having a true objective mind, there's already a tilt in your thinking that's leading towards dysfunction. And if your body is filled with parasites, spores, and funguses, you will respond to two things: fear and white people. Because that's the resonant frequency that your body is on. Now, you might say, well, brother, you're talking above my head. Give me some understanding on this. Here's the understanding on it. I want you to get it plain. God made this earth to be inhabited by what we call in black people or indigenous people. That's what the Creator did. How you know it is you can test it. You can test it by nature. Now, I didn't make nature, so don't get upset with me for making the report that nature gave me. Just give me your ear for a second. And it doesn't mean that you have to be disrespectful to other races of people. You should be civilized and have some etiquette about yourself. But if you divorce yourself away from natural law, you have just committed the transgression that will lead you into a condition like this. Because there's no compromise. It's not like a stoplight. You know how you can run the stoplight when nobody's looking? And if nobody catches you at that moment, you got away. But when you put that sunscreen on, there is no getting away. You just did yourself in for a little while. You have to figure out how to get back on the right page, or you're going to pay a price, and nobody has to give you a ticket. The Creator doesn't have to give you a ticket. You're going to pay. And this is what your children are not being taught from the womb, so they grow up dysfunctional, and they want success, so they either want to be LeBron James or Lil Wayne. Instead of being LeBron James' account manager, trust fund broker, all right? The owner of ASCAP to be the distributor of the music to Africa that will uplift the people. Where is that conversation going on in the house? Because MTV is not having that. 106 in Park is not having that conversation. They're selling you flash and emotions, which is a human trigger that's resonant with an uncultivated soul that needs to be cultivated. So, culture. How are we going to raise the bar? Now, we wrote this book to address those things in a very technical fashion. Because we can measure behavior and based on the health of the human body. The body is the temple. It's the government. How can we run a dysfunctional government here and expect to run a functional one out there? Can I get an amen, right? Y'all wanted to praise Jesus. I ain't got no problem with Jesus. Except, who taught you that? Doesn't mean you have to divorce yourself away from things, but belief is killing our people. Belief is killing them. You know what beliefs are for? Beliefs are for children to believe in their parents when they don't have the formative neural circuitry to form reality yet, and the parents are building that reality up. So you tell them stories about Osiris and Isis, Santa Claus, whatever you tell them. It's a myth. Everybody knows it's a myth. But if you grow up as a grown adult and you still believe in the tooth fairy, and somebody knocks your tooth out, are you going to go cry to the tooth fairy and give you $10? As an adult? You're not going to do that. Somebody going to 302 you and put you in a straitjacket. However, those other myths exist, and they compromise your integrity to make other decisions in your life. We're going to outline that. So we got to talk about government, but we can't talk about government without talking about health. It is a waste of time. Because you're going to have the proclivity to do things that are abnormal and in violation of yourself. Now, everybody knows who that is, right? That's Trayvon Martin, right? Now you see a whole bunch of stuff. This is what you call, when Catholics were coming to Africa and America, and we would have all these calendars and we could see the future and all that, and they said, y'all worship the devil. Y'all got all this voodoo and indigenous this and indigenous that. So what they did is, they took all of our masters from the past Some of them they renamed or whatever. They copied some new books and they put it out that we should follow these new people when this type of education was given to us as children. What Jesus or Muhammad or Moses could do, everybody learned that. So what they had to do is the same thing they do in Hollywood. Make some people stars and make other people lesser than stars. They just took from your indigenous history and did that. But we could predict the future based on possible energies, based on reading the sun, moon, and star, and the movement of the energy of the living universe. Not somebody going in a room saying they talk to God and they coming out and telling you this is what God said. You only know what God said when you close your eyes and you listen yourself. That's when you get the real communication. And somebody coming from the outside can only give you some principles. But this is based on an ancient calendar that the Olmecs had, just converted to what you know as the card system. The card system that you play cards and checkers and chess, these were all designed from ancient sciences that were taught in universities all across the earth. And then when Europeans got it, they made the European monarchy, and they put a king and a queen and a knave and rooks and all that stuff on it. But it's copies. But when Trayvon Martin went out the day that he went out, he was on the Orisha, or ancestor, or daily energy of death, or it's called the sitting still ancestor, which means you're not supposed to move when you get that ancestor, you're supposed to stay in your home. But because he was not taught the culture, and therefore his conscious mind could not catch up with subconscious energies, he moves based on the fact that he was a part of the colonized network that we're all a part of, which gives us the dysfunctional output of that energy instead of the functional. So on that day, instead of invoking stillness, death came, and you could see it in advance if you were looking, if we had these systems. This is how we warded off Europeans. When the Europeans came amongst our people, they stole this information, and now they keep it up amongst the elite and the aristocracy to use it against you to calculate your possible movements, leaders, children. Why do you think they're taking birth certificates? And times of birth. You think that they just want to keep records, public records? Sure, but they learn all your ancient astral sciences, and now they're probing you to see what's going on amongst you, but they're not probing you by sending in CIA agents. They're remote viewing you. They're not going to send nobody in the room. They can sit a psychic up at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Ingo Swan, and see the possibility of what you will do from there, which is what you used to do. That's how the intelligence, that's how they spy on Russia and other countries now. They got books on this stuff now. My point is, you behind and you should actually be ahead. Because you're engineered to operate like that. But you're so stuck on foolishness, we can't even get in the gear to talk about government yet. And nationality, and birthrights. Because as soon as I put this up, you're going to say, Brother Ali, you're a devil worshiper. You don't believe in God, Allah, Amen, whoever. Jesus, Moses. You don't believe in them. There's no reason to believe in nothing except yourself, then your family, then your nation. What else are you to believe in? Everybody else believes in that order. And the creator that gave birth to everything. That's the order. And the ancestors in between you and that force. That's the order. So everybody respects their lineage, everybody has a culture. What is the African American? A creation of white people. Molded and shaped by Europeans to function a certain way until they can possibly get some other body of knowledge that will change them into another functional direction. So we can look at these things. Now, you also have to understand that the greatest threat on the planet is the so-called black people in America. And I'm going to lay this down to you and tell you why. The suppression of the history and the threat. So whenever we do something good, they come at us. All right? And you can tell who's for you and who's against you amongst yourself by using some of these things we're going to talk about today. Now, Fox News. Anybody know who the primary stockholder of Fox News or News Corp is?
Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch family. And who has the equal amount of shares comparable to the Murdoch family? We break something down to. Anybody know? Free will. And this is significant to what's being reported in the news, and this is directly significant to the issue of nationality for you. No, not Teton. The Saudi royal family, specifically Prince Al Talib, is the priority stock owner with the Rupert Murdoch family in News Corp, who is mainly the one that's putting out anything Ferguson and negative propagandist commentary towards our people, anything international with Israel. They have this bent upon presenting the news a certain way. They control Al Jazeera and a few other networks, sub-networks, as far as the stock. Why am I saying that? Always look for who owns what to look at motive. The media is against us. The media is against us. That's childish. No, people are against you. And who are those people and why are they against you? And what is their motive? That puts you in a political demeanor to make the proper analysis of what's going on. So we formed a human rights plebiscite 10 years ago called the International Society of Indigenous Sovereigns, and we were using the acronym ISIS. We used it for 10 years. We don't have any insurgents. We never blew up a building. We don't run up in nothing. We teach political science to our people, culture, law, contract. We have various jurisdictions, schools, and other things that we run, right? But we've been effective at a lot of things with getting people together and putting minds together, which is the way you become effective. So last year, they started posting stuff about this said terrorist group that was called ISIS. It's subliminal suggestion. That's how these said partners started. They did it with Khalid Muhammad. When they blew up the towers, they had the fake verse blowing up. They had little CIA plants, whoever they put up, but at that time the guy's name was Khalid Muhammad. And they came right after that to try to publicly slander Khalid Muhammad. So don't be surprised if you see something about me in 2015 on the news. Something crazy. That's how they, and this is how they attack and press the fear button in you, because they know you're afraid of white people. And the media. We have to be careful, all right, of said media. So they put this out. Now they're saying that this ISIS terrorist group is trying to eye the Mexican border so they can come here. So a few years ago we put out that we would have stopped using the term ISIS and adopted ARNA as a socio-political entity, and then we recently put out an executive decree to completely stop using it as a public word, because we don't want ourselves being associated with them, because we see what they're doing. Same thing they ran counterintelligence on the Panthers, on Garvey, on whatever. Anytime you want to stand up for yourself in the name of peace and uplifting your people, it's considered a threat to white males. It is. And what is the threat? What is the threat? We're going to look at it. So they put up all kinds of stuff in the news. Just look at it. All of a sudden you have this group who comes out of nowhere, which has the same name as something that we formed 10 years ago to solve the socio-political issues of the said African American. All right? Which means they watch you. Now, let me divert for a second. How many people have been watching the situation in Ferguson? Watching Michael Brown and his family. And, you know, the brothers going down. They've had the funeral. They've had protests, said riots, etc. But pay attention to what is going on. Because it's not the first time it happened, but it's a model to pay attention to. The people in Ferguson were frustrated because one of their brothers got gunned down by a state-backed, said law enforcement agent. I say said, all right, because we have to know what these people actually are. And autopsy's done. It's clear that he was shot in the top of his head, which means the officer had to be standing over him or he was on the ground. No indictment as of yet, as far as I've heard. As of today, I haven't seen anything. And the young people were in an outroar about what's going on. Now clearly these people's human rights are being violated. Because they tell you you have the what? Freedom of assembly. Right? First Amendment. But then they say, no, even though you're an adult, we have a curfew. We have a curfew set, and then we have places where you can go. You're permitted to go here, you're not permitted to go there. Either it's have a right to freedom to assemble, or that right can be amended at will by local said law enforcement or officials. So what happens in a scenario like this is, and what's going to happen is, some attorneys are going to come in, they're going to file civil rights suits against the people, lock them up into jurisdictions of the United States. Michael Brown's family might get indicted, they might not, they might get some money, they might not. The people who got locked up, they're going to be paying exorbitant fees to get out, bonding themselves out, and then if they file a civil rights suit, then most likely in situations like this, it'll get rushed under the wall. Here's what the people of Ferguson need to understand. They're at home. They don't need the First Amendment from the Constitution to assemble. I'm going to start there. See, because we jump to our constitutional rights. First of all, you have to understand your natural rights as the first people of this land. But you can't have those rights accessed until you tell the world who you are, that you are at home. So I'm offering right now public advice to the people of Ferguson. If y'all want me to come out there, I'll come out there, pay my own fare to come out, not like Jesse Jackson trying to charge you exorbitant fees to do a little local lecture or whatever. I'll pay my own fare to come out there. We can bring some other brothers with them, and we'll nationalize you on the spot. And once that is done, and you enter the plebiscite, from that point on, you can file human rights claims for violations. But as state property, you can't file violations. Or if you try to file the violations, you have to have the people who know the procedures correct to do so. But your 100% remedy is not to be state property. And this is what a lot of people have to realize. You're not going to get any remedy until you make the declaration that you're at home. That nobody had to make an amendment to a constitution to make you a second-class citizen for you to get some second-class rights. And this is why the police is running through our neighborhoods, shooting down our brothers like they're cow dung. Because the attorneys are going to go there and tell them to file civil rights suits and claims. There's nothing wrong with that, but to continue to do that is to continue to get this result. All right? Just like they're in uniform, right here, you could be in uniform. Same way. The same way. Just like they're there with arms, you could be there with arms. But what do you need to do? You need to have a political status. You need to get off of these phony contracts off of your housing. You're renting. You can't own anywhere and set up security forces to protect yourself if you're a renter. So what type of programmatic thrust are black leaders giving you to show you how to own your own homes? That's a big part of the conversation. Not only own your own homes, but own your own homes under entities set up by your own government. You're trying to run down and set up a business with the same fiction that's committing the domestic terrorism against you with their said law enforcement. So I'm saying you need a whole plethora of education that has to be handled. So the people of Ferguson, we got some recommendations for you. Come say you're indigenous, we'll do it. If you're watching this live, let me know, we'll come out there. File a suit in the Inter-American Court of Justice, the ICC, your own Aboriginal court. Produce the proper letters rogatory for all the people that were locked up who are indigenous protesters. A letters rogatory is when one court sends another court information about a particular national or a particular incident of a national of another government. Then you can get real injunctions against the police department. See, you can go to a federal judge, maybe even a local judge, and try to get some injunctions, but next thing you know, the next year the cops will be doing the same thing. We need things that are binding, all right? Train local indigenous security units. We have people who can train these people Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Initiate local jurisdiction for community, economic, social-cultural, political, cultural building, just like we do here in Manhattan. Start your local jurisdiction up, raise your flags up, and get to work. That is your solution, Ferguson. That is your solution, said New York. It's not even Ferguson, which is just a business. So my point is, and this is a big point, I gotta say this, and some people might not like this. Attorneys who get licensed by the fiction are usually bound up in the strategies that the fiction offers. All right? Let me show you what I mean. Don't get upset. Just listen to me for a second. Let's see if I can get to this. I have a slide that breaks this down a little bit more. I don't want to miss my point. Don't have to guess anymore about what to do. We're tired of guessing. All right? Now, I heard Brother Taz say that we need more people. See, we have to understand international jurisdiction. There's some Native American tribes that only have 1,500 people. They operate as a nation. Even though they're under the BIA, they still function as some level of self-autonomy. If they subtracted themselves from the BIA, they would still be a unit. And we can't wait on 500,000, 600,000, or any number. In international law, according to the Montevideo Convention that started back in the 1930s, there's no set number on the number of nationals that you have. There's just set parameters. You have to have a land mass that you historically identify with. You have to have officers of government who can be communicated with. You have to have a constitution and a set of rules that governs the people who are part of your community or nation. See, what happens to us is we're waiting for too many numbers when we need to be setting the framework, because believe me, the numbers are coming. They're going to be running from fire. And if you have something in place set up for them that's functional and set up, yes, degree by degree, patiently, they can respond properly. So let's go back. All right, so what have we done so far? What is this week about that we do in the summit? So we're supposed to contact 45 nations. So far we've contacted 19. The 69th session of the General Assembly starts what's the day? The 30th? Today's the 30th? It starts in 16 days, September 16th. That's when they'll come back to work and start on the issues of this year. Our plan is to have communicated with all of the nations that we wanted to write. So far we communicated with Cuba, CARICOM, which is 15 nations, Caribbean community, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. We chose those nations first for a reason, and we'll give you the report when we do our UN conference on the 12th. So that's what are we doing? We are communicating with them for reciprocal recognition on specific points. Specific points. And we won't go over all those points, but these have to do with instruments that we can use on the international level. Things like passports and stuff like that. Right? And the idea is, at the 69th General Session, if we only get one of those countries to recognize us, which we will, the idea is to go through the process of what's called observer status. And I have to defer. I went through the NGO policy. The NGO policy is you have to wait 2 years, and you are a non-governmental organization, which means you can approach the UN, Economic Social Council, and do a number of things. It's really functional. But when you start talking about political status and operation on certain levels that we've been experimenting with, you are nullified because you're a non-governmental organization. Non-government means you are not a government. And I don't want to put our people in a compromising position, because we've already formed certain entities to address building the infrastructure for national standing. And you don't even need another nation to recognize you, you just need those fundamental things that I've mentioned. Yes, absolutely. All right? And we'll come to that in the Q&A. So this is what we are working on, right? This is live action on this right now. All right? And with CARICOM, they were going to send a representative today, but they said they didn't have any staff today. But we're going to see if we can get them in the building on the 12th. And with CARICOM, something instrumental was happening because they are suing European countries for the crimes in slavery for reparations. The only problem is they have a European law firm representing them. Yeah. The Lady Day law firm is representing them. So what I said to them as an offer is, let our indigenous law firm represent you in the reparations case, because we know what laws apply to the liability factors at the time that the injury occurred, which is important. That might be a little bit of high legal talk for some of you, but for attorneys, you know exactly what I'm saying. Or students So we're going to change this to October for timing purposes, but in October, we have our national elections. My seat is up for election, the cabinet, parliament, Jural Society, and Aboriginal High Court appointments. This is what you do when you want functionality. See, let me say something. Because you got all these black groups out here, they're good, they've done some good in the community, but they become like cancer. Now, they're like cells that are turning to apoptosis. You know what apoptosis is? Or cellular necrosis? Is when the cell starts dying because the structure no longer can sustain the vitality of the body. So a lot of these groups are dying. They're dying because the people stay there their whole life and no one can have a voice in the group except the main key character. And it neutralizes the ability of human beings to develop. I've been in the groups, I know. They got some good things with them. But now the things that are bad are outweighing the good. And the signs is that the leaders are getting sick, which is a sign of what's happening with the group. It's not a shot on them. Actually, they can come to us and we can help them. You know what I mean? We don't want to badmouth people, but we want to help people. But you have to be willing to take the help. All right? And if your doctrine says God said something, right? That I can eat this cheeseburger. God said meat is good, brother. That's not God. God don't make that kind of stuff. The Creator formed the laws of nature to be immutably perfect. So if you put something in your body, you get bad output, and a God told you that, that's a false idol God. Unless you're saying your God needs a dietary class to teach you what to eat. Think about it now. Just sit on it for a minute. If you're eating flesh out here, what you're going to talk about tomorrow, the body was not designed to eat flesh. I don't know. You can show me what's in a pyramid. I don't care what you show me. I can show you the result. Our ancestors did things that are out of order. Just because ancestors did it don't mean it was right. That's why we fell. We started doing things that were against nature. All right? So you need elections. And even if you're not an honor, each group needs its own plebiscite to start forming these types of entities. They're corroding themselves. And then you got all these priesthoods, these muftis, these Moorish priests, these indigenous priestesses, these ministers, these reverends, these imams. And they're experts on nothing. Because it's not being siphoned through group analysis to take out the things, and one person will always miss something. Believe me, you can't lead millions of people or thousands of people as one person. Hell, you damn near can't lead yourself. It's evident. All right, so I'll come back to that. So, again, you need a constitution. We wrote this constitution. It's a provisional constitution. You heard, what did you hear when we said the preamble? All right? We mentioned who we were and that what? We are the what? Aboriginal and indigenous peoples of the Americas. That flies out of the door for some people. What do you mean, brother? We came from Africa. First of all, there was no Africa. Because nobody called it that. That's important to the question of law. Because when you use a misnomer, it's taking you away from the context of the nationality and the political rights of the people who lived at that time. Then you start looking for rights for Negroes and Africans, and there was no rights for them. No treaties, no nothing. Because you're not looking under your original names. So now the European has made that taboo to look under those names. We don't have to guess. All right? We wrote this book. This book is here right here today. You can get this book here today. 100% proof. Not that you came, you know, how's the story? Oh, the Africans were the first to come to America. No, there was a time where our people never discussed themselves coming from anywhere. First meaning autochthonous, the first being on the land. And all other populations were migrators or mutants of that original stock. Particular detail. We need to get that information. All right? And you can get visual aids. You don't have to guess about it. This is what the Mayans look like. Now the Mayans are white when you go on tour. You go to Teotihuacan, you go to these lands, and the people don't even look like this anymore. That's what you call the genocide of a people, the denationalization. How come your children can't see this picture from the Bangladesh, which is right in North America? How come they are not allowed to see this? They celebrate Columbus Day though. Then, look, we fund our own destruction. You pay property taxes on your house to support the schools because you don't know a way out. Then we show you we got a way out. You say, nigga, I ain't going to jail. But you would rather see foreclosure. Because you can't pay the mortgage note and the taxes are running you out. We need to be studying these things so we can implement them. Because that's not democracy. See, democracy is supposed to be you have the freedom of contract. So how is it that a local unit can force you to pay a tax? And what is that tax based on? Is it based on the state constitution? Go find it. Is it based on the federal constitution? Go find it. Is it based on some treaty? No, go find it. It's based on some local stuff that was written not even by the people who you elected into office. You got to study city construction, county construction, state construction, and who's actually writing the laws. Listen, Obama and them will tell you what? Oh, we're waiting to pass this bill. It's 12 o'clock and Boehner and Obama and all the people are fighting over this or whatever. And they don't even tell you that the Office of Law Revision Council has already written the bill by they giving you that theater. Congress hasn't written anything since 1974. Since that time, they contracted with a trading company called the Office of Law Revision Council to write the statutes for them or rewrite the statutes into code. So your lawyers need to come tell you that all of the politicians can be locked up for sedition. How come they're not telling you that? But they tell you to go to Ferguson and file a civil rights suit so they can get a cut. Never mentioning no human rights, but they talk about black power. How much power is in that? There's no power in that. That's a lie. You're deceiving the people. And at this point, you know because there's enough people who have come to you to tell you what you're doing. So now you need to be put on the guillotine. I have no mercy for these Negroes. Y'all can have mercy all you want. I'm from a generation where we don't have no mercy. Nigga, you lying, put your head on the table. Because the cost is another generation has to go through another cycle of deception before we figure out what's going on. So why not take a better course when the old course is not showing that it's improvement for the group? It's because some niggas are getting some change from it. And you haven't stood up and said nothing about it to do nothing about it. Men, ain't no other men on earth. We could talk about the Arabs and all these people all they want. They men, when they get in trouble and all these problems going on, they start taking heads. We're comfortable because we got a 401k and we don't want to mess that up. I'm trying to retire in Florida, Brother Ali. But what about your sons and your grandchildren and all the children that aren't born yet? What about them? Nigga? The unborn children who don't have any hope because you want them to take a damn vacation. So what? You can take a vacation after we take this Negro's head off for selling out our people. And children, you need to do that. You say, well, brother, don't incite my children to violence. No, that's self-defense. It is self-defense. Because no one should be allowed to come into our communities and parasite off our communities and get away with it. Because you know what? The next one is going to come and do it after that. Then another one. Then another one. They say, you know what it starts looking like? Oh, black people don't do nothing when you take from them. They just turn the other cheek. They forgive the people who hurt them the most. And they can't get along in their own house. That's hypocrisy. That's why your children don't want to go to church, because you're a liar. Oh, just forgive him. Forgive Obama. Let's pray for the president. Then Junebug get locked up. You talking stuff about him on Sunday. I told him he's going to get locked up. He'll never listen. He need to be locked up for the rest of his life. Hypocrisy. So we got to change that attitude. This is you. Children, you don't learn this in school. Go ask your teacher, who are the Olmecs? Say, brother, went to a lecture, the brother said that the Africans was here and the Olmecs and they were the first people. Is that true? That they were the first Native Americans? Is that true? Am I related to the first people here? They're going to try to give your child detention for having the knowledge of self. It's illegal for you to be yourself. Think about it. You don't have books on this. If you do, they give you one paragraph, and then they say it's another people. That's not you. Denationalization all the way up in the textbooks. The original Mexicans with the captives who are the invaders. Look at how they look. All these Europeans, this is in the Oxford Library. How come Henry Louis Gates can't go get this book? He can come and tell us that we are not indigenous. But he can't go down to these libraries, Harvard and Oxford, and get these books and bring them out to the community. I'm telling you, people are selling you out. You need to understand this. And then you need to do something about it. What do? We present the information, right? And we publicize it ourselves. Hell, we got a camera in here, we stream it to anybody in the world that wants to watch it. You go to Mexico now. First time I went to Mexico in 2004, there was a group of Mexican women, and they start pinching themselves and laughing. So I asked the tour, why are they doing it? Oh, they're saying that you're the people from their ancestors. Meaning, I'm home. You follow? So everybody knows you but you. We gotta learn. We coming. Ancient Moorish writings in Nevada. Alright? They're not attacking Islam because it's some terroristic religion. You created that system and put them all the way up in the caves. Then you went back because you're so kind and nice and gave them the Renaissance. Now they're attacking anything that is your history. Alright? So let's scroll along so we can get to some other points. This is from international, look at this now. We talk about integration. This is from the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People that was passed by 144 nation states in 2007. They made an instrument to speak on behalf of indigenous people who have been colonized. And look at what they said. Indigenous peoples and individuals have the right not to be subjected to forced assimilation or destructive of their culture. So they tell you, you don't have to immigrate. And we're running to integrate. Destroying our culture. Burning our hair up to look like white women. Putting on baby parts on our face. Skin black as hell and beautiful. And you got all kind of cream and stuff you're putting on your face. For what? You know what that was used for? That was used for people who didn't have no hue. Who was pale and funky and living up and didn't know how to take baths. So you put a whole bunch of stuff on them, to perfume and all that stuff to cover up the funk. Now you following them. as a form of beauty? That's cultural annihilation. States shall provide effective mechanism for prevention of and redress for any action which has the aim or effect of depriving them of their integrity as distinct peoples or their cultural values or ethnic identities. Any action which has the aim or effect of dispossessing them of their lands, territories, and resources. Any form of forced population transfer, taking your children at DHS and all of that, which has the aim or effect of violating or undermining any of their rights. Any form of forced assimilation or integration. Any form of propaganda designed to promote or incite racial or ethnic discrimination directed against them. This is all international law. You should be incorporating this into your local plebiscites and constitutions, or constitutions is the proper place to enforce it. Look at what Article 9 says. Indigenous peoples and individuals have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation in accordance with the traditions and customs of the community or nation concerned. No discrimination of any kind may arise from the exercise of such a right. You can't do it as a Negro though. African American, second-class citizen. You actually have to document yourself as being indigenous and say, I get it, I know who I am now, let's move on. Then we can show you how to get out of these fake tax brackets that you're in, where your money is going all out. So now you're saving resources. This is not theoretical. I'm about to show you, I've been living like this for the past 13 years of my life. Hell, all the work I do for R&M, if I didn't do this, I'd be broke as hell on the street somewhere. All the stuff y'all nationals put me through, calling me all times of the night, everybody got an emergency every day. Right? Y'all know what y'all do. It's all good, I love you. Alright. So, look, history. I'll come back to that. That's a high point. Alright, so look at what these folks tell you. See, look at it. They tell you cowboys and Indians, right? Then they bring out a movie called Cowboys and Aliens. Subliminal suggestion. Alien is a socio-political and legal term for people who are undocumented. It's different than immigrants. Because immigrants are people who are documented, who have permission to come onto the land. Alien is undocumented. So now, if you listen to Fox News, they're saying, oh, it's over 10 million undocumented people here. Mexicans and all kinds of people. And then ISIS, this new terrorist group, might start recruiting them or merge into them. So we got a problem. So they're pushing the agenda item of border control under the guise of terrorism. But why do they want to control borders now? What's so important about controlling these borders? Anybody ever been to the Mexican border in Texas? Man, you can walk across that joint just like you're walking down 125th Street. They built this stuff down there to try to stop it, but it's too much land. White folks know that indigenous people want to get back at them. They're trying to build a fortification for themselves. Because even though we're not really even doing nothing, we're just chilling. The guilt is making them think it's about to come. Here they come. Let's build it up. They're going to get us. Just some legal definitions. What are actual Indians? Indians are the Aboriginal inhabitants of North America. That means they're you. He's just using a misnomer for you. The people on the reservations now, unfortunately, are not the Aboriginal inhabitants of North America. At all. You ever hear the term, Dr. Claude Anderson taught us, this is the first time I heard it, $5 Indians? You ever heard that? $5 Indians means white people went in, and when they were taking censuses on Native American population in the 1800s, they paid $5 to be put on the census. So now when you go to, little Cherokee Nation or whatever, you see all these white people there running everything. And how do they get indigenous? They paid $5 at that time. So that's how, again, they wipe out who are the first people. All right? It is said Indians is a name given by Europeans. That's not not the real name, discoveries of America to its Aboriginal inhabitants. When used in a statute without any other limitation, the term has been said to include members of the Aboriginal race, whether now sustaining tribal relations or otherwise. Whether you sustain tribal relations with them or not, you still are you. Nationality is based on the principle of self-identification. No group can tell another group what they are, who they are, and who they can be. As soon as you start doing that, it's colonization. That's why I said we need multiple plebiscites. We can't tell Dr. Mustafa Ansari how to run this plebiscite, but we can enjoin our experiences. And then as we get ourselves strong, multiple, 10, 12 of them, then we can start uniting. Confederation concept, as you laid out, Brother Tab. That's a beautiful concept that Dr. Mustafa Ansari is coming up with. Yeah, give him a round of applause. He's probably only one of the few attorneys that's actually working for us. I'm going to get through some of these institutional things and get to some stuff. Hey, anybody ever seen this form? Let's get to some contracts. Anybody ever seen this form? Some of y'all are nationals. You ever went and opened a bank account? And they pull out a form, it's called a W-9. And the reason why they pull out the W-9 account is because they are creating a trust relationship with you at that time. And because you don't know how to engage the contract, in an international relationship, they domesticate it, pull you into their jurisdiction, and tell you, the FDIC, if you have over a certain amount of money in it, you can only get this if the bank shuts down. Alright? And they actually own the account. Something happens to one of the Fed member banks and they get shut down, the money is gone. Banking holiday, like they did in they've already done these things before, 1973. Banking holiday, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, shut down the banks, you can't go get your money out. You follow? They've already done these things, these schematics. I'll give you an update, because y'all something, oh, that's 1933, 70 years ago. Remember your EBT card shut down? A year and a half ago? You remember that, don't you? Some of y'all. Dry run, 10 states EBT card swipe and nothing worked. What would our population do if the EBT cards get shut off? Lord have mercy. Hey, niggas might revolt after that. We might need to look into that. I'm joking. What happens? I don't stay on time. What happens when these things happen? We don't know how to contract. So what we do, a large part of what we do is teaching contract. I got 5 minutes and I'm gonna get through this so we can do our panel. But this can save you money. Listen, the IRS, I haven't had interface with them in 13 years. I had one interface in 2005 when I worked with the school district. That was just to enforce some exemptions, but I haven't had no interfaces with them. I'm not Lauryn Hill or Wesley Snipes. They're not gonna lock me up. Or Ted Turner or any of these other sovereign citizen people. They sent one notice to me, and that was just to try me to see if I knew how to respond. And it was a request for information on 17 entities that we have in our jurisdiction. So they had to listen to the radio shows, must have been, that's the only way they could get it. Besides some other stuff, maybe some light paperwork with bank accounts that are open to banks. So they sent me, and so it was the invitation to report the income of these 17 entities. So you know what I did? I'm gonna show you power. Because y'all watch The Wizard of Oz. You gotta pull the curtain back. Remember the little guy who was talking with his big voice? Oh. And everybody coming to get their heart. You know what I mean? And all the other things from The Wiz. And the dog pulled the thing back and there was a little man back there running the machine. So let me show you what you do. I sent them a letter back. I called them first. I talked to the lady and I said, I want to send you some correspondence. I said, but I have a question because you made an inquiry for me to report. I said, I have no problem giving you the information that you want. I just want to know one thing and I need you to provide this live for me. Where in the United States statutes, Constitution, any laws, can the IRS audit a foreign government? She fumbled for like 30 seconds and hung up the phone and wouldn't answer it when I called back. So I sent the same thing in writing, and I never heard from her. That was 2 years ago now. Simple question. See, you trying to fight the IRS with the, little strategies, But we're trying to show you a higher strategy. And we're trying to show you, once you end those encumbrances and those bad contracts, how to do it right from that point on. That's what we can show. We can show. Let me show you, let me give you an idea how important this is. I can show you too while I'm doing it. Just give you some visuals so you won't think I'm making this up. I use my property. I have it in me. Alright, some IDs. Alright, so this is property tax exemption, right? So the property taxes go to what? School district, right? So, it can be sales. I can go to Staples right down there and get a little, buy something, you know. I don't know, TVs or whatever we buy. Property taxes. And the idea that we have in Arna, check it out, is that you, as indigenous peoples, are by treaty and constitution non-liable for any of those taxes. However, the only thing you don't know is how to contract yourself out of them. That's all you don't know. So we set up models and we tested them for years so that we could operate them efficiently. So if you have a home, we have a way to get rid of the mortgage, and then after that's gone, or while it's being gone, you transfer the property over to a proper trust. See, the rich people in the world don't have nothing in their name. We transfer it over to a tribal or government trust with, you know, either jurors acting as trustees or family members can act as trustees, or whoever you appoint, because you're the trustor and the beneficiary. You have that power. Follow me slowly. So once you're in that power and you go through a little class to learn these little techniques, then you can now move yourself into non-tax liability. Check this out. If our people, let's say 600,000 of them just came on that one program, we could generate saving each family, if we save each family $5,000 in sales and property tax, we could generate saving $3 billion with 1% of the population of so-called African Americans. Yeah, you need to clap, man. Y'all understand what I'm saying to you. Let me say it again so you can get it. You are suffering, looking for investment for institutions. And what you don't know is the energy that you already have just needs to be redirected in a proven strategy. So organizations get together and they try to do fundraisers and all this other stuff. And they don't know that they need to help the people that's in the organization. Now sometimes, you know, we help people in honor. Niggas just disappear, don't show up, it's cool. We ain't mad at you. We understand that's going to be there. But what we're saying is 1% of our people we can save $3 billion. 10%, $30 billion. 100%, $300 billion. How many schools could you build? How many Aboriginal clinics could you build? Huh? How many technology centers could you build? So we can create the weapons to give to the people so when the police ride up on you, just laser them. Shh. That's what black people do. We invent some crazy stuff. We got the police laser for you. They run up on you with their taser, you just block off. Do we need to be designing weapons technology for the future? For the protection of our people. We got to do it here, yeah. Since this is kind of young, you know, we still go to Nigeria. Go somewhere else in the world. Go, you know, go Cuba, somewhere. But we could take 1% of our people and fund every operation necessary in each one of the said 50 fictitious states right now. Right now, 1%. That should make you want to try to get ready and get amped to get that 1%. But we got to focus. All right? So this is just a homestead exemption, an easy one to wipe out taxes. You see the entity? I don't have it in my name. It's just a homestead. All right? Look at the property. I discharged this from someone. All right? You see the ISIS Aboriginal Trust. Other things. Staples, tax exemption. No, the churches. We could go to the churches, right? All the churches going to school in a few weeks or so already starting. Go to all the churches in your local community like, listen, let's form some type of entity So we could go buy all the children's school clothes from whoever we buy them from and use the tax exemption, and we'll save ourselves how much money? But y'all let Reverend Chickenfoot wear his Masonic ring and get away with all the money? And he's confident too. I can't wait to get to the sermon on Sunday. That nigga should be scared to come to the church on Sunday. All these gangs we got out here, you crippin' in your blood, and you banging? I got somebody for you bang on for real. I got somebody for you take out who is a plant in our community. That's where we need to go. If you want to kill somebody, kill the people that's causing the problem. Stop turning the guns on each other. You know, you fighting over women and drugs and all of that. All the resources in the church. Hell, your gang could get funded by the people in the church. Instead of this nigga riding off in a Maserati or whatever you ride in. Yeah, Reverend Chickenfoot got the tax exemption and he won't share with nobody. And you still follow him. Look, see, contradictions. The Bible said death is sin. And sinners go to hell. So the preacher got the tax exemption. He ain't in debt. All his debts being resolved. So he the only nigga that get to go to heaven? Teaching you that you about to go? He should be telling you, man, you better get this tax exemption, you're going to hell. It's phony baloney. This is hell. Hell is a state of condition in mind where you cannot activate peace and prosperity for yourself. And heaven is the place where you do have that. I know it's not 2014 and Negroes still think they're going to fly off in spirits with silk garments on and eat grapes as spirits. Y'all ain't telling me that's still going on. Come on now. Y'all ain't teaching children that. There ain't no way you teaching children that. 2014. You need to think about it. That's what's happening. So we can do this for our people with one program. Y'all want doctors? Oh, I can't wait till my son go to sign him up for the Aboriginal Medical Association and the ISIS Ministry of Health. Why not? You gonna go send them around the world and use his talents and gifts to go what? Make a vaccine for the Ebola? I'm so proud of him killing everybody. That's what you should be saying. We are prideful in the wrong things. We're prideful in the wrong things, and those doctors can't do nothing. They can't heal nobody from those sicknesses. They tell you they can. Somebody right now in your family is going to die this week from some causation from a said medical institute that was designed to keep you in those bad conditions. They take the babies and they stick them in the heel with the vitamin K. Oh, the baby's deficient. Oh, really? We need to look at these things, brothers and sisters. We're killing ourselves in ignorance. Student loans. I was on a scholarship at Temple University, and the athletes would get Pell Grants. They don't know what Pell Grants are, right? Like little grants or whatever. So I took out a loan my freshman year for $2,500 because my Pell Grant wasn't coming through. There's some problems. So I got through college. I was an athlete, full scholarship, All-American athlete, academic, All-American. So I got out of school, and they took a $2,500 loan, pieced it into 2 parts, and ended up trying to charge me $43,000. What? By that time, I had learned all this stuff. So what did I do? I sent them one affidavit, and this is what happened. This is just one of them. What's this one? TransUnion. What do you see right here? U.S. Department of Education. What does it say? Delete. Now, how did I get rid of the student loan? And the lawyer is going to tell you, oh, you can't get rid of student loans. You got to pay your student loans. It's not a student loan. It's a student credit. You paid the university with your signature. The bondholders took it, endorsed it, turned it over to the Federal Reserve as an item of credit instead of a debt. to enhance their stock portfolio, and they let investors invest, so they got money from the investors, and they let you make money. Then you went there for 4 years and got dumbed down. They made you stupid. And you paid for it. Unless you got some kind of skill or something, like, you know, you was into technology or something. And even that's kind of off. You know what I mean? The way they teach it that. There's better ways to run that. So, we can get rid of these things. Delete it. Alright? Little stuff. What's this? Credit report stuff. See, we give people jobs. You can go right now to, write this down, or take a mental note on it. Aboriginal Network .ning, N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy, G.com, and download our whole book that shows you how to do the student loan stuff and all this stuff. It's under financial recovery. Free job. We can, listen, our people don't have no labor, we got a job for everybody. Let's get rid of the national debt, which is exceeding almost $20 trillion now. Tapping on $20 trillion. All because people don't know how to contract or get out of fraudulent contracts. Anybody loaning you no money? They're taking your signature and converting it into an asset. And they then took the assets. They took your ability to learn contract law, which you're supposed to learn in civics class. So they created the political injury through state institutions by not giving you the requisite information, giving you the wrong information, and then the causation point is you entering life and entering into all these contracts with no knowledge of nothing. Meanwhile, you're denationalized. Meanwhile, they ain't teaching you nothing. So you got the emotional, the psychological stress, and the empirical economic stress all on your back. You need to step aside and let that stuff crash down. Look, one affidavit, collection or something, delete. Midland funding, delete. That's me. See my name up there. I'm not giving it nothing. Nothing. Let those resources be for my 6 children. Anyway. All right? Look, closing point, and then we can do our little Q&A and we can get out of here. I didn't write this. This was written by the said state legislatures in all the 50 states. They tell you right up front that they can cheat on you and cause fraud on you. And if you don't know the remedy, too bad. Now, I want you to go to your home state. I forget the exact title in New York. Jersey is 12. Philadelphia is 13. 12A. Anybody know New York's? 3? It's 3 in New York. Look up. Title 3 of the New York statutes, and then go to Article 3, Section 202, and this is what it tells you. That all you're doing is negotiating. And in your negotiation, without the requisite information, it could be a pension fund, it could be a 401k, it could be Social Security, it could be any of these things that we're all dealing with. Because you don't know how to negotiate, you yourself are creating the problem, and they're committing fraud, and it's all right for them to commit fraud unless you know the remedy. Negotiation is effective even if obtained one from a what? Infant. They're negotiating with babies through their mothers as trustees who don't know their nationality. So the mother is denationalizing the child at the hospital. But she's under threat, duress, and coercion because she just had an epidural up her spine. All right? They done twisted her all kind of ways. They got her in strapped down, and you expect her to make a conscious decision. Then if she don't want to get the birth certificate, you want to take her children away. She's supposed to have a right to see her lawyer. You want her to sign documents under threat, duress, and coercion? You're a doctor, not a lawyer. If you ever get in a situation like that, just say I reserve the right to speak to my counselor or my lawyer. And say, okay, well, I have no problem with signing anything. Is there a law that says I have to sign a birth certificate in the hospital? Can you get your legal staff to sit it down to the room, please? Use your intelligence. You're already smart. You already know this stuff. You know white folks are liars. You know what you do to a liar? You just give him his lie back in his face. Just ask him what's the basis of his lie. And then he's going to start jumbling around. And they have no answers for you. Look, negotiation is effective. It didn't say it was legal, lawful, anything. It said it was effective, meaning it happened. All they're doing is taking cause and effect and putting it in your hand in ignorance and saying you don't know how to deal with cause and effect. You follow what I'm saying to you? They're telling you you don't know natural law. It's effective. They didn't say negotiation was legal. They didn't say negotiation was lawful. They said it was effective even if obtained from an infant, a corporation exceeding its powers. You know what a corporation exceeding its powers is? The police department. They are not law enforcement. They're supposed to be following the Constitution. You ask them something about the Constitution, they don't know nothing about it. They enforce the local powers of the municipality for control of the municipal assets, which are its businesses and its residents who don't know themselves. All right? And they're telling you right in the wording, the word resident means a thing identified. You're not supposed to be a thing. First of all, they taught you the rules of grammar, and a noun was a person, place, or thing. So you're not a place. You could be a person if it's a natural person, but they made you into a thing. Res-ident, to identify a thing. It turns you into a thing because what they're telling you is we're stripping you of your rights at every venture of these contracts, and we set up the whole school system and the whole schematic for you not to learn it. Who set it up? The bondholder families. Go look and see who the companies are, who are the bondholders at your municipal and state level. They're the ones who control you. You see what happened to Detroit? Same thing happened to Harrisburg. The people who you elected in the office, the bondholders came and said, no, we're going to sit them down and make our trustee take over. So the city council now in Harrisburg, we're sitting you down. Is that a democracy, or does that sound like Nazi Germany? So who's going to teach all of these denationalized African Americans how to run their local governments? We have to form our own indigenous entities to do it. That's the only way out. How many people are willing to do that? Aren't y'all tired of being tired? Of being tired? That will wait another 100 years for another Malcolm X to come? Look, we don't read. They tell you on all these forms, you go apply for a job, right? They give you all the trumped up IDs and other things to put you in charge, how the tax brackets. If you come in there with our identification, they're not supposed to discriminate against you. This is the top form of a I-9 form for employment. See, we got to read. They're telling you that you have the possibility to have another position, but if you don't take that indigenous position, that's not our fault. It is illegal to discriminate against any work authorized individual in hiring, discharge, recruitment, or referral for a fee, or any employment eligibility verification process based on the individual's citizenship status, immigration status, or national origin. Employers, capital letters, cannot specify which documents they will accept from an employer. So if everybody had the same citizenship, they wouldn't even need to put this up here. If everybody had the same national origin, they wouldn't even need to put it up there. The United States of America, the geographical space that government operates in, houses many different nations. You go down into New Mexico, you might ride through the Navajo said reservation, you're no longer in the United States of America. You're in some other people's territory. When we go down to the UN, once we step into the building, we're no longer in the United States. Check that out. How does that happen? Refer to your legal guide on that. Now, I have some slides I'm supposed to see. I don't see any. So let's see if I can CEOs for these companies. These are the same people who ran the plantations. Because this ain't nothing but a big plantation we on right now. And ain't nothing gonna change it until we look at ourselves. See, we ain't gotta have a bunch of marches and all. Just get some pens in your hand and learn how to write the right thing. Just be real quiet. You ain't gotta be loud mouthing and calling people names. The white man is the devil. Necessary. You gotta insult nobody. Just get intelligent. Just get wiser. Just learn how to employ the strategy at home, where you can control the circuitry of that information and how it's used. Because nobody knows what needs to be done in your home but you. You got people trying to bring all kind of foreign entities to tell you how your home needs to be ran. Everybody got to stay in the house. Jesus got to stay in the house. Muhammad, Moses, King Tut, Amun-Ra. Goddamn, can we speak for ourselves for a second? We respect the ancestors, but we have to use applicability and relativity where it's appropriate. All right? Let's look at this. These are bondholders. Do you know what depository trust company is? You know what seeding company is? All right. We're not going to go over all that. Look, check this out. All right. Fictitious names. This is what we're walking around in. A fictitious name is a counterfeit, feigned, or pretended name taken by a person different in some essential particular form from his true name. And then they put in here consistent of his Christian name. What's your true name? Why is your name John Jones? That means you're named after Europeans, right? One. Then they put it on a birth certificate. Birth certificate. Now, it would be cool, nothing wrong with that. You registering the name. All right. Is it your birth certificate? No. How do you know? Because you got to pay for it every time you want it. If it was yours, you could just have a copy. Yo, I need a copy of my birth certificate. Can I get that? I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. I just need y'all work for me, right? Can I get a copy of my birth certificate with my name on it? Oh, that'll be $15. Who are you to me to charge me $15? They're the trustee. What does that mean? That means that the name is now owned by another party that you don't see, who's the beneficiary. So you got three parties: trustor, trustee, beneficiary. If you're the beneficiary, you go in and get it because you don't own it. But you're not. So there's some company that's a vendor that's the beneficiary, all right? And they open up the market to the state to have all of its things paid for in advance. The school teachers, the garbage, and all of it. And they get money from the Federal Reserve. But the Federal Reserve money don't come from the United States giving the okay to print the money. The Federal Reserve assets comes from those 21 primary dealers that I just showed. They're the ones with the assets who control the industry. The Federal Reserve don't have no money. They don't have no power, they don't have to do nothing. We need to look to the multinational corporations who have been running this thing, and those are the crime families who know all about your indigenous history, your Moorish history, your empires. They got all the rare books. Look at all that. And they sitting there saying, the niggas are waking up and we got to figure out what to do. So that's the dilemma that they're in. And your dilemma is, we are waking up, so what are we going to do? Are we going to stay in these fictions? What is fictitious? I'm going to dig in you for the last few minutes now. Don't strap down for a second. Fictitious, founded on a fiction. Having the character of a fiction. Pretended, counterfeit, feigned, imaginary, not real, false, not genuine, non-existent. Fiction, like crucifixion. You follow me? I know I hit home on that one, didn't I? I'm watching on TV, somebody just passed out. Give him a VA. Fiction, all capital letters. These people know what they're doing. They're not guessing. Go read the first books of the New Testament. How come they wrote Jesus' name in all caps? All right. We need to know the level and the depth of the illusion, because if you're practicing the counterculture, you can never get together and be successful. And if you have counterculture amongst your ranks, you need to squeeze it out. Even if it looks like you, it ain't you. Y'all follow what I'm saying? See, we're merciful people. That's good. Nothing wrong with that. But everybody that looks like you ain't for you. And sometimes it's not even their own fault. They don't even know how to be themselves. So you got to have some therapy set up for them. So how many people come in tomorrow? Because tomorrow is therapy. Tomorrow is you eating cheeseburgers, cheese fries, vegan pizza, hot dogs, whatever you want. We got something for you. We got to change that. Oh, brother, I've been a vegetarian for 20 years. No, you've been a starchitarian for 20 years. And that's why you're still crazy. We got to try to fix that. Our people, if we want to form functional units to move towards nationality, need to know the formulas to do so. Which means you need to invest the time that is necessary to work on yourself. And as you improve and work on yourself, you have more confidence to bring to the group and stop being so needy. You have the confidence in yourself, in your own power, in your own self-development, and you are unique, unlike any other human being. No one is like you. Even if you have a twin, no one is like you. In this world, the systems are not designed to cultivate that power. It's designed to suppress it. And most of what we think is designed for that suppression. So, we need rules. We need regulations. See, the conscious community thinks it's going to get away with just being conscious. Be conscious, be aware. We know, we read books like power. And enough in your own life that is self-regulated to the point that you love the discipline enough to do it even when nobody is watching. That's when you love yourself. A sign that you love yourself is when you resist abnormal desires when nobody's looking. The hot dog look good, but I ain't gonna eat it. I don't need Brother Ali here. I still hear that nigga in my head, but I don't need him here. Don't touch it. Because you know what it's gonna do to you. Go to your little prayer room, meditation room, and fight those forces and tame those forces. And that level of integrity and character is what allows for the vision to come into fruition as a group. Our people keep getting these one leader models because we keep creating it through our own behaviors. And our own behaviors say we keep coming in deficit, begging instead of looking internally to turn on the engines that need to be turned on. And that way, you can be whatever you want to be. You want to be an MC? You want to be a ball player? You want to be a lawyer? You want to be a doctor? You want to be whatever? You can do it with the type of integrity which will put you in the cutting edge of that field and bring the resources to you because people are tired of the old models. You follow what I'm saying? Sure. They're tired of the old models. The old models are dying out. It's time for something new. And guess what? If you want to find out where something new is coming from in a society that's corroded, all you have to do is look to the people who have suffered the most. Because they are the ones that are like that carbon with all the pressure that puts that pressure so much so into that mineral that a diamond begins to form. That's you. That's you. You can't fight it. Time and circumstances already did it. It's time for you to do something for yourself. Our position is really simple. We are government consultants, which means we teach and train other entities how to take their organizations and make them more functional. We support our community. We give out free labor opportunities. We train people. We run regular classes here and other places where we can. And we are laying out some basic things. They are great challenges in the orchestration of what we do. But what else do we have to do? Nothing. Except turn back and integrate. That's not working. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be employed to take care of your family. But it also means that each one of us should dedicate some time to his or herself to look and see what we can do for the greater good of the group. And if everybody took that posture, we would get a lot more done. And we need it. So I'm going to defer the rest of my conversation, and then we can take the Q&A. Do we need to bring a table up here to do these last few minutes so we can do the Q&A? All right, how y'all want to do this? Is that okay? Yeah. So we'll take about a 2-minute break, bring a table up, and we're going to allow for you. And when you have questions, actually I'm going to set it up so you can come up, you can form a line.
You can set up over here, that's fine. This way, this way.
Oh, that way? Okay.
Mic here, we're good.
So y'all see Skepper DJing on the mic? You can go right to him and form a line over there and bring your question around. Unless y'all want to get him on camera. We good?
Peace.
Peace, family.
Yes, peace. Thank you for having this for us. Definitely is a big help. I wanted to ask, every now and again I get like a cold sore or something like that, and I wanted to know what's the most effective method in order to approach that from a holistic standpoint.
Can you repeat that one second?
Yeah, every now and again I get like a cold sore, and I wanted to know what's the most effective method with dealing with that from a holistic standpoint.
Very good. Don't go nowhere. Stay right there. What are you eating?
I'm a vegetarian.
What are you eating?
I'm eating starch, greens, pretty much that's it.
All cooked, mostly?
Yeah.
On a regular?
Yes.
What time you going to bed? On a regular?
On a regular, probably between 9:30 and 10 o'clock.
What time you eating?
Probably after 8 p.m. I mean, not after 8.
After 8?
Not after 8.
What time do you start eating?
Probably around 9 a.m.
Okay. First of all disease is the body trying to correct and rid itself of waste. That's all disease is. And there's nothing that we can give you to cure anything, first of all, because the body does all the healing. When you're eating all cooked foods and eating before noon, not exercising enough, emotionally not at poise, that develops waste, that innervates your body, that drops your electrical energy, which allows the organs to do their job. And disease or symptom takes place. If what you're eating is not in harmony with the body, and the body has a list, and if you go outside of that, then it's going to build up waste in the body. So all those factors put together determines how much cleansing you're going to do, because that's all a cold sore is. It's like an ulcer opening up and allowing the waste matter to come out. But the wisdom of today says, when that happens, take this to make that thing go away, and it suppresses it within your body, allowing it to move to another part to come out another way. So it's a relearning on what we have to do. Tomorrow I'm going to bring my book. I didn't bring them today because we'll be talking about health tomorrow. I'll bring my book, and then you can get a basic understanding of what health is. That's the problem. There is no cure. Here, take this for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just also wanted to ask to the brother sitting to your right. I heard you say that you were looking on, you were looking and searching cases. I want to know what type of websites or where I could do that.
I think the best source for looking at cases, if you, unless you have an account, would be Westlaw or LexisNexis, if you have an account. Or you can use them at the local courts. If you go into courts that have law libraries, you can access those two publishing companies. However, you can also use Cornell law.
All right, do use that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? You guys spoke about.
Speak up.
You guys spoke about fraudulent representation when you're dealing with contracts, right? The question I have is assignments, and how can you tell where that assignment is fraudulent, but you want to create the remedy around that assignment that let's say you go to a bank, go for the loan, and they give you, they send you to a finance company or a mortgage company or a loan company, and now you're paying them as opposed to the bank. How do you get around that remedy of dealing? How do you get around the remedy of dealing with the assignment that you did not know took place with you on the loan?
Yeah, he's asking about assignments. I think that a part of the issue, and I can start it off and that way you can pass it around, is that you have to go back to the original action. Because when you start dealing with assignments, you're dealing with instruments of equity. And when you're questioning equity without questioning law, which is the initial instrument, which is the state promissory note, then you can get lost without addressing questions of law and fact. So if you're going to question something about a mortgage, you can't question an assignment and the legality of it because there are governing instruments. But the issue at hand is the said lawfulness of the said promissory note and who has it. Who is the holder in due course of that promissory note, and any subsequent actions that took place after that, the said initial mortgage and any assignments that went after that are all hinging upon who is the holder of that original instrument and whether that original instrument was carried out lawfully. So before you go to the assignments, go back to that. There's a case called Carpenter versus Logan. You can look that case up, which says basically that if there was an issue with the promissory note or there's no promissory note, then any subsequent actions dealing with mortgages and assignments are null and void. This is actually a Supreme Court case that you can look up. So you always have to go back, Brother Chet taught me this, the law of authenticum. Go back to the authentic original agreement and look and see if it's actually a contract, which you'll find that the promissory note is not, but what you'll also find out is that the promissory note has disappeared, and no one has the original instrument, which is a question that needs to be raised first, and then any other questions about the other instruments can be added on as addendums.
So to connect with what you're saying, the CUSIP number that you spoke about, because you're talking about the actual original note, and that I understand it gets monetized, am I right, or securitized.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with who owns that, how do you find the bondholders that actually hold the original note?
First of all, before even getting down there, there's 3 levels. First is your status. Second is jurisdiction. You don't want to go below that just yet. You want to determine if it's defective, jurisdiction. Do they even have jurisdiction? So you want to determine if it's defective, if the instrument is defective, if even the action is defective. Do they have standing to sue? Do they have the legal capacity to sue? So all that has to be ferreted out. And then once you ferret it out, then you find they have no case and it get dismissed. So you just have to take steps back first.
And to marry it to, I think I feel what you're saying about where are these people. That's not your job to find them. It's your job to question at some point who has it. And that is see, when you come to a case, you're dealing with the contract. That is the nature of what's being discussed. What lawyers and judges are good at do is deferring away from that particular point to points that have no merit. So you gotta bring them all the way back, like you said. How are they even able to bring a foreclosure case if they're not even a party of interest, which is the status issue? It's an issue that can be vacated, basically, because they have no standing to even sue you, because who are they? Who are they in respect to the initial contract? If they have no standing to sue you, and they can't answer these questions in discoverable form about the nature of what would be a real issue at hand, then they don't have the right to talk. Which means that the issue can be vacated with prejudice because they don't have that standing to sue. If a servicer is coming to you, say, I'm foreclosing on behalf of such and such and such and such, and they're not bringing all of these documents in, look, I got the original promissory note, look, this is my delegation of authority to act for this entity for the record, they don't bring that in, they bring a regular civil suit, and the presumption is that the people are going to be so stupid that they don't know how to ask the discoverable questions to vacate my action as a said attorney. And that's where you have to cut them off at, right at the end, if you understand. So you don't have to look for all of that information. You see what I'm saying? That's something that's a part of discovery that they would have to present if they had some standing.
Fraudulent representation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, your question, as I heard it, basically was derived from the confusion that law firms present to you. See, they present a certain claim to you, and you feel as though you have to ferret out each and every detail, when it's just a matter of going back to the alleged contract, because we really never go into a contract, because a contract has to be autographed by two parties that have a mutual understanding, full disclosure, and all the consideration and details of that particular agreement are put forth on that document henceforth. You're supposed to see everything on that document that pertains to that alleged agreement. You're the only one autographing or signing it. Everything. From a mortgage binder, because that's how you really begin that fraudulent process, is you go into a binder because they tell you that, oh, so nobody else can come and contract on this land or this property or this house that you want. We need you to put a down payment. At that point, you have paid for the house because you gave them your autograph and you provided consideration. You have paid for the house right then. But what do? They say, we're going to schedule a closing date and we're going to hold the keys until you come to this closing. And when you go to the closing, they have 3 hours worth of documents for you to autograph and initial. And when it's only one document that pertains to that particular situation, that's the promissory note. That's why they're bringing you there. And they keep you in there for 2 to 3 hours to intoxicate you with paperwork and ink so they can get you to not read the promissory note, just sign it. Because they're going to make sure they don't put it in front of you until after 2 or 3 hours and you all intoxicated, you want the keys to the house, you got the moving truck waiting with your furniture on it, and you got the children, they need to go to school, they got to have the bed set up and all that stuff. See, they playing you. They playing all of us. And so it's not necessary to try to ferret out all these players. The contract is fraud from the inception. That's constructive fraud. So all you need to do is deal with that. And you'll see they're not even going to answer any of your questions. They're going to try to distract you and then bring you into the court and try to put threat, duress, and coercion type processes on you to further distract you from the point that they never had a contract in the first place. And there was never a bank transaction like the brother said that had the orange shirt on. And get you to confess to something that doesn't even exist. And that's the game that they play.
The other thing is, once you raise the issue, the burden of proof is on them. So once you question it, they have to demonstrate that in fact they had the standing. Yeah.
So that's the FOIA request. So that would be the FOIA request?
FOIA. He's talking about a FOIA, Freedom of Information. Well, it would be some type of discoverable action that you present in the court. And it doesn't have to be framed like you said, but you're talking about the nature of what's being said, where you're sending some type of interrogation about the nature of what they have instituted as a civil action. So you're responding saying, okay, well, cool, you're bringing that civil action. Well, you need to tell me who you are and what's your relationship to this. In discoverable format. So it might not be a FOIA, but it could be a discovery response or some type of action, discovery action to request that information. Information request, which is something that you can use for other things to get information on something that you might be related to in an action.
Actually, you guys just pretty much answered my first question. It was going to be what is wrong with the mortgage? So that from the brother with the student loan.
The question is what is wrong with the mortgage?
Yeah, like, kind of in layman's terms. Well, first of all, the problem coming out of the gates is that you are dealing with a dead pledge. Morgue, like what happens at a morgue? They have like dead bodies and dead things, and then gauge is a pledge, so it's a dead pledge. That's how come they execute constructive fraud against you, because they are bringing you into something that has no life. So it's designed to suck the energy out of you, because once you accept it, then you have to perform in order to satisfy the requirements of that dead pledge. So it's like a parasite. It's a parasitical type process to suck the energy out of you, because now you're thinking in terms of, I have a monthly obligation, taxes, insurance, and the dead pledge obligation. I have to work, I have to do overtime, I have to take on a second job, I have to juggle my family's situation around so I can take care of them as well. And all the while, your health and your energy is being sucked out of you because of this parasitical type process that you have entered into. And that's why we're here, is to provide the necessary purgatives to get that stuff out of your system so you can live longer.
Let me say something about that too, to give you a backdrop on it. For those of us who study the political history of the Moorish empires in West Africa and how they spread into Europe and how European powers came into some level of political influence, we need to understand the economic side of that. We usually talk about the wars and all of that, but your question on mortgages is important because we had something called the jiza. The jiza was the tax for foreigners who would come into our lands and try to set up what we call today residence. And we would never want them to establish themselves as domicile or inhabitants, so we set up what would be considered rent and mortgage operations today so that the state could always tax them so they wouldn't own it. We didn't do it to our own people who were indigenous there, but we did it to foreigners. So what the European found out is they studied that structure and they figured, oh, these people only allow ownership through bloodlines. So that's when they began to entreat the men and the women to share bloodlines so that the mixed and amalgamated children could now get past those contracts and get into what we call wakifas. Wakifas were trust relationships that families ran. So once they got in, and they got power in certain places, they reversed the strategy on people. And now what we're seeing is that upside down thing where most of our people are in rent and mortgages, and a lot of them who are more affluent, who know the society better, who had a head start, they're not in any of those things and they're able to get out. So what we're looking at as far as these mortgages and other things is we have to see them as a dynamic of history, one, and two, as a dynamic of how to create a serfdom population. That's all it's for. So, in that sense, that's the bigger picture of what a mortgage is. A mortgage is a way to suppress groups of people out of ownership who have been bracketed under the terms impoverished or middle class, which only means they're all poor. Or they don't know how to orchestrate their family for control and dominance where they live. You know what I mean?
And then, thank you for that. And then the second part of the question is, I don't know if it can be answered in this Q&A time, but what are the remedies for getting out of it? And do you have, like, Representative Cedar on site that can assist with it?
Yes. We do a class here every Monday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And in that class, we have groups of people who are specialized, who we call Aboriginal jurists, who you can consult with before or after class, and they can help you with those remedies. The remedies that we use are what we're talking about, besides going into details about specific names of documents. We're heading them off from the beginning of what was the obstruction or the attempt to create something fake, and then going through procedures to ensure that we can stab off a sheriff or a court, or even use their own judgments against them if we're doing some other methods. So there's a lot of methods to attempt to question the nature of the fraudulent actions. But some of the brothers are up here now. You're familiar with Chad, myself, or Ramanu. We're here on Mondays, and you can come on Mondays, which is a much better format to pull us to the side so we can counsel with you. If you're here local. If you're not local, then you might need to use the websites to contact us so we can give you a contact. And the numbers that y'all have are on the Indigenous Government website. If you go, anybody who needs help who's not local, you can go to the Indigenous Government websites, and all of the jurists who are up to par, their contacts and emails are there, so you can email them and let them know, and then get to them.
Okay. And then I have one other question. As far as working, I guess as far as career-wise, are you able to continue working and be, I guess, within this indigenous government?
Are you able to continue working if you deal with any aspects of nationality or anything?
Yeah, like as far as,
Yeah, you can perform any work that you would work. The only thing is going to happen is you're going to have more enhanced knowledge about how to protect assets and enter into contracts.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the last couple of years I've been developing my own product. I was thinking, I'm going to see about getting it.
Speak up a little bit better.
The last couple of years I've been working on a new product. I want to get it patented in the next couple of months. Should I change my name, or?
If you want to get it patented and you haven't had any national standing in another group, then you would have to establish that national standing in order to set up patents. There's processes internally that we can use the patent, and there's international bodies that deal with patents on an international level that you can use besides the U.S. Patent Office or copyright or any of those offices. So we would have to direct you to both of those. But I would inquire that you come to class first to learn what you're doing and learn the basis of how you can protect property through that vehicle and other means. But we do have that service that we can show you how to do that on both a domestic and an international level without seeking the U.S. Patent Department as the last recourse.
You suggest I change my name?
I suggest that you understand the nationalization process, which might come with a name correction for the sound footing of nationality. We need to understand that nationality is not just a piece of paper that you sign or the plebiscite. It's understanding, okay, if I elect to be indigenous, what is the progressive nature of that in my dealings, and do we even have the institutions to show me that? Well, we can say we do on some fronts, and on this particular front we can't, because we have other people who have dealt with that specific thing. So what I'm saying is, when people ask about name corrections, they're usually asking in the contractual side, but they need to understand the cultural and the contractual side married, because it's a personal decision. And you don't want to make it just because you want to do a patent. You want to make it because maybe you want a name correction. Follow me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you local in here in New York?
I'm in Hartford, Connecticut.
Say again?
Hartford, Connecticut.
Connecticut?
Hartford.
Hartford? Okay, yeah, we don't have a local jurisdiction in Hartford yet.
And I just wanted to add something as a response to your question, brother. throughout history, our people have invented just about everything, but yet today, when you go into books that deal with inventions and inventors and things of that nature, you're always seeing other than us. And the reason for that is we always were like distracted out of our birthright claim to our land. Therefore, at some point, even with our genius, we had to transfer it to someone else. And Minister Ali was giving you a very key point when he said you have to understand nationalization first before you get into what can I address that I'm dealing with right now, because they have tactics and strategies already in place to steal from you outside of you just trying to protect one or two things based on the remedies that we use. You have to understand your status, and your status is going to be your protection of everything that you embark upon, whether it's compensation for wages, which people call working, or being an independent contractor, you know, running your own business or things of that nature. So I'm sure that patent is probably tied to a private business that you have in mind or that you're presently operating. See, right, even, you know, planning it, you have to learn how to protect that before you deal with protecting the patent. Because otherwise, 10, 20 years from now, if that patent really jumps off into some type of, let's say, profitable venture, there's going to be a European that's going to be saying that they own the patent 20 years from now because you didn't have the proper status, and all these other tactics will position you where they would take that from you. Because they've been stealing from us forever. So the status is the key thing here. Whatever issue that you have in mind that you want to address, you got to address your status first. Then you can go and address your mortgage, your credit cards, your student loans, your independent contracting scenarios or whatever, but your status, your nationality is the key thing. That's what I want to share with you.
Another thing I want to say to the people too, when we have brilliance in our community, one of the things that they're struggle with is the money at it, where we get it. We need to think about that too. If our organization is not willing to create those formats to protect someone like him, it's useless for the community in the long run because it's not a circle like everything else that moves in the universe. It's circles. You know what I mean? It's a structure that is corroded. So I just want to add that.
Several years ago, my house burned down, and by the time I got there, someone called me and told me my house had burned down. And by the time I got there, they had already called in a removal company to remove all to take everything away from the house. Okay, so I filed bankruptcy and went through like a chapter 13 to keep the land and everything so I could rebuild the house. But in the meantime, things went awry, and so I ended up losing everything as far as the land and everything was concerned. So my question is there any way to recoup it?
That is a specific question that would be an appointment where we have to sit and look at
more details.
Yeah, because that's very specific, whether you had insurance initially and what happened with Chapter 13 and how did that expire, if it expired, and how did they proceed. That's a detailed thing, and I would recommend that you see one of us at the end and get our business cards. Are you local here in New York?
I'm in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia? Well, we're in Philadelphia, so if you can get my number, we're down there, we can talk about it and see what we can do.
Okay, and one other question is the student loan question. The student loan question, because I have a student loan now that is basically, I don't know what they call it. I don't have to pay on it right now, but I still have to finish paying it.
Deferred.
Yes, deferred. Okay, so I guess I could talk to you about that. And then also, IRS had me pay them like $50,000. I didn't owe them. They just kept taking my money every year. But I definitely did not owe the money. And I'd like to find out how I can file against them and get it back.
Yeah, we can talk. We can have conversations about each one of those, and where we can help you based on what you present to us. We'll definitely do that. So make sure you see me specifically afterwards, and then if I can't help you directly, I can direct you to one of the jurors who can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, by the way, I'm Minister Chede Abuchara-Hill, and I'm also, aside from being an Aboriginal jurist, I'm the Minister of New Age Science and Technology. So if anyone has any questions dealing with technology, although that wasn't on the subject matter list tonight, feel free to ask any questions about anything dealing with technology. My area of specialty is computer hardware, networks, security surveillance, point of sale, and some software-related issues, although I'm not a programmer, but I can answer some, not too complex questions dealing with software issues as well. And that can be on a Windows, a Macintosh, or a Linux platform. So if anybody has any questions dealing with that, mobile phones, tablets, laptops, netbooks, anything like that, feel free to come up and ask those questions as well.
Greetings, brothers on the panel. I'm glad you all have us here. Greetings from Arna Region 4. Chief Minister Jabari sends his greetings.
Yes,
Aboriginal jurist Anwar sends his greetings as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Chief. I have 3 questions. One is a short question. Where is you mentioned the National Chief, you mentioned the ICC. Where would that be located?
As far as geographically located?
Yes, geographically.
I think the ICC is located in, is in Geneva, yeah, Geneva.
Oh, Geneva, okay.
Yeah, they have a website too, and when you look at their website, they give you the details on if you want to make reports or claims or aspects of reporting or reporting human rights abuses.
Okay, second question, which is associated. You mentioned the 144 nations that signed the Declaration of Indigenous Rights. Is the United States one of those nations that signed?
They didn't sign. What Obama did was real slick. I got to say something about this now. He promised that he would put something on paper by word in a press conference. We still have that press conference on record. As a matter of fact, you can go to the whitehouse.gov archives and look at it because they still have that video up. So he promised that he would put something in writing, but he never did. He never did an executive order. He never did anything physically in writing. He only came up and said that he supports it, and if the United States supports it, that he's going to get his staff to put something in writing. Now, and any of you can correct me, but I was waiting and watching specifically to see what he would do. He only made a public agreement with the principles of it, which is in law is a tacit agreement. But Obama is slick. He knows what's going on, and sometimes he's trying to quell the fire because he's aware. I mean, he's getting all the reports of what's going on and things that are going on. But I don't know anything about him putting anything in writing. You can correct me if he actually put some instrument into it.
I think what they did was it's called reservation. So with reservation, it's not like a denial of the existence of the right belong to the people, but it's consistent with an abstention. They're just not going to address it at the moment, not in terms of creating a document.
Yeah, and you know what? One other thing that became interesting, which was a dialogue when, who was the ambassador to the UN before Susan Rice? What was the white guy's name? I forget his name. John Bolton. Yeah, exactly. He raised the issue about the instrument, and it was a weird conversation that they had. I think I still have that article where he was talking down on it first, because there were 5 nations that kind of abstained from making comments on it. All of them were colonizing nations that were doing it, but he made a point. He said, well, the problem that we have with the instrument is we don't know the definition of who's indigenous, which was interesting to me how he highlighted that. Because he knew at the time, since 1983, that all of the conventions that had came up all the way to, what's the guy's name? Jose Cordoba, whatever his name was. It was based on self-identity as indigenous. That was the programmatic thought in the international platform. If a group of the people have identified themselves as an indigenous people, no one had the right to obstruct them from that self-identity. So what he was doing was throwing a little curveball at the legislators, saying, well, anybody can come and say they're indigenous now, which also is a whole nother conversation about the levels of what that word means in regards to international law. But my point is that these political people will throw curveballs. We don't have to give too much attention to them signing or doing anything. Because when you come to a plebiscite or something of that nature, it doesn't take their signing any instrument for us to enforce what would be considered a birthright or a natural right or a human right. That's something that you do through these procedures that we're talking about inside of the group who has cohesive agreement on those things. It doesn't take a political leader from the outside to co-sign it. That's my point. And I'm saying that to say because a lot of our people look for that. They're looking for recognition in the sense of, right. Thank you. Recognition is notice, not permission.
Okay, I asked that, dear brothers on the panel, because as a law master, I am in front of the federal court in the jurisdiction. The great things you all teach us, I don't just leave, and a lot of us don't just leave and not go into the court and practice execution of them, because that's the best way to push it. And we know Illinois is a hell of a beast, especially Chicago. So I'm currently in court, and we are going to a hearing on Pro Rento and a hearing on, what is it? Well, I'm having the judge declare. And so it's dealing with status, it's dealing with indigenous status, it's dealing with the judge, a declaratory judgment. So it's going to be a hearing on both. And what the lawyer did, the attorney for the state of Illinois, he tried to come back in a motion to dismiss the UN. I put the Article 13, Article 9, a few things into the case. Into the,
from that human rights instrument.
Yes, and he's trying to say, well, it's not a language that the United States, really, he didn't say they didn't sign on it. He just said we don't recognize it.
Here's the question that I want to ask you. In what way are you using that instrument in respect to the original matter at hand? And I'm asking that because that instrument itself does not prove you're indigenous. You follow what I'm saying? Right. That's an instrument put together by people who were in support of indigenous peoples. What proves you're indigenous is your functionality in some type of indigenous structure within itself. Okay. You follow me? Because if there's a question of who you are, you can use that instrument to support it, but it's not the concrete thing that says, this is who I am. Yes. And I don't want you to get the lawyer to have dismissive actions because they are third parties, and then ARNA can't say that they are signatory to that specific instrument. You follow? That's how they trap you.
Understood. It was the complaint is way longer than that. Okay. However, yes, there was the hearings of Pro Rento is for them to prove their authority that they're trying to exercise upon us with status. And second, the hearing of the declaratory judgment is for our paperwork to be recognized, not recognized, my apologies. For our paperwork, for them to know, I'm telling you, this is who I am, this is who we are, this is my status. So I use the paperwork from ARNA to let them know this is who I am.
Right.
And so that's my proof of who I am and how I identify myself. And I even use their case law to what identity is. What the name is, you have fictitious name up there, I got that case law as well. So it's more thorough, but I was just asking because I have to go in front of them probably next month. And so they just brought up the UN thing, but it's not the strength, they're fishing pretty much. But any assistance, that I know you all, everyone that provides assistance, but I want to know across the board if anyone has been in this position, I would definitely need the assistance.
Issue. Was it the issue that you brought? Was the issue they brought against you? What was that underlying issue of why you were in court? Because that answers how you apply the status to the particular thing. And if it's private, you can reach me through channels that are online or through the Lawmaster's listserv, but if you want to state it now, we can address it now.
I can state it now. They have misnomered my identity as what people call the straw man.
Right.
And they had me on a list Illinois had me on a list for child support, blocking any kind of travel, passport, anything. They're attempting to prove that I'm someone I'm not.
Right. And
that paperwork they got from me, because we're looking at rules of evidence, everything they had from me, nothing had straw man anything attached to it.
Okay, so here's the question. The initial issue was a child support issue.
Yes.
It's now in federal court?
Yes.
You did a removal. How did it get in federal court? From the local jurisdiction.
I'm the plaintiff on it, and since it's the passport case, I sued the passport company, the United States Department of State, everyone else. Health and Human Services was a defendant, as well as State of Illinois is a defendant. Illinois Department of Health and Family Services is a defendant.
So you did a removal?
I didn't do a removal. They accepted the jurisdiction. So I just sued them for them blocking the right to travel, well, not right to travel per se words, but for them blocking me from not traveling, and they had nothing saying I was that person.
Okay, so what happened is you had a local issue with child support, and then they carried out some type of said penal action against you, and now you're addressing that penal action in federal court, saying that it's an obstruction because I no longer operate under that identity, and you are using that identity to penalize me, so I'm suing you on that matter.
That's correct.
Is the other matter still open on the local level?
They're quiet. They don't want to say anything. They're not accepting anything else. They don't want to deal with it.
They set no hearings. They ain't doing
They don't want to. I put hearings against them. The situation is they're saying that I'm the one that opened up the case for child support. Go figure. So but I put in motions to dismiss it, everything else. They have not said anything. They don't want to talk. They don't want to do anything.
Okay, next question is, obviously this is with a woman that you have children with.
Yes.
Okay, what is the status of the children? Did you ever get the children's nationality completed?
That's what I'm working on now.
Oh, so you haven't completed that?
No, not that.
All right, so but I'm saying that to say that you have to approach that original issue properly with closure and default judgment and a number of things that you have to do to close that original matter out, because the said penal action, even though they're trying to come after a fictitious entity, you want to close both properly. You see what I'm saying? You don't want to leave a matter open because of procedural defects.
Yes, sir.
In carrying out your case. So that's the conversation that I would need to have with you to pinpoint what you need to do to close that. Lastly, and this is just to all brothers who are out here, if you have a woman who you have had children with, always seek to talk to that woman first. I know what you're gonna say. It's impossible. I ain't trying to hear that. Because if you can get close enough to make a baby to somebody, you can get real close to them. Right? A lot of what we go through is because we don't employ enough energy in that area, and we employ more energy sometimes in this vein to fight in court, when we need to go talk to that person as a human being and open ourselves to resolving, which is usually a financial issue, and there's needs there or whatever, and there's emotional pain and hurt, which I also recommend you talk to elders in the community, because I've been in similar situations and I know what that is, and you have to employ the indigenous practices first to attempt to resolve that issue, because what could happen is you could get her agreement to close that matter out completely with the full consent that y'all could operate it in our court, where we'll make sure you take care of your children and she's whatever, and we'll guarantee to her that if you don't respond properly, we'll take the appropriate steps, so that we close that off completely, and now the other matter, which is already moot anyway, becomes really moot because the initial issue is closed. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I have tried that, and I can attest to what you're saying. We have spoken, and I took the papers down. She said, yes, I'll sign it off. You're good. Got down there with the papers. She was like, well, I've been talking to my friends, and that situation happened. But, the thing was, at least for a moment in time, she was willing to talk. She said, yes, I have my family here. I brought with me as well.
Yes, sir.
But she said yes, and that was that. But I'll talk to you about that.
So what you can do is you can talk to me afterwards, and then we'll go to the next, and we'll get to that and get some more conversation back, because we dying for time now. Go ahead.
One last quick question.
All these questions.
Off of that situation, mortgage. What would be the best way for a preliminary setup for someone to buy a home? Like we all talked about what not to do, what mortgage was, but when home buyers and people here want to be home owners, I haven't heard yet, I know it's somewhere, where could we find the preliminary methods of getting a true way to buy a home buyer? I know status is one, but what about non-nationals? Things of that nature. What's the preliminary method?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole plethora of questions in one. But I'll say this. We have to, and this is why I talk about a family. If we have the resources, we can engage those contracts and pay for a home. One, if we do it correctly, with saving the amount of said revenues that is needed to do that. The second thing is, we can engage those contracts just like anybody else is engaging those contracts, and there's a way to cut them off from completing the fraud, because we understand the closure process, but that's a whole discussion within itself. So we're not barred. One thing we have to stop doing is following these sovereign citizen ideologies, because we're not barred from entering into any contract. We just know who we are when we're entering it. And the procedure is not necessarily always the problem, it's us not knowing how to respond to what's going on. But we can have more discussion on that. We want to get the rest of these questions.
Response to you, brother. Are you familiar with the term authorized representative? Okay, because what they're doing now to us, because they see that we are correcting our status, and because of that, they can no longer enforce these constructive fraudulent contracts on us. They're trying to bring issues in dealing with the straw and compel us to come in to unknowingly identify ourselves as the straw, which is not a good thing, or come in like you did, identifying yourself in your national status, but then they're saying, no, you ain't this and you ain't that. The proper way to do that is, because see, the caption in any type of case is always all capital letters. An entity against you as a defendant, or you against another entity, and they create you as a corporation by putting you in all capital letters. You have to address the caption first. And then when you're responding to that, even during the administrative process, you have to always do your national appellation, comma, impropria persona, comma, sui juris, comma, authorized representative ex rel. And then you put the straw in all caps and you enclose it in brackets. Because, in other words, they always got a law firm coming in on behalf of the bank or the student loan company or something like that, but yet they want you to bring your physical body in for the fiction that's the other part of the caption. You see what I'm saying? But when you come in as the authorized representative ex rel, that straw that they put in the caption, when they start to question that, you divert from that question and point right to the attorney and say, well, where's the entity that has the claim against me? I I did that in court. This brother and I, when I did my paperwork, I was doing it like that. We didn't know at the time that there were 2 Supreme Courts in the county of Queens. So we went to the main one, we got there early, and then we looking all around. We went to about 5 floors. We couldn't find the room. And so we went down to the clerk and said, well, we supposed to be here. And she looked, she said, no, that's at the other Supreme Court. I said, what other Supreme Court? She said, no, there's one over in Long Island City. I said, oh, okay. So we had enough time. We traveled over there. We get over there now. And that particular building is reserved for attorneys doing ex parte signings and attorneys against attorneys on issues and stuff like that. So when we went in there were like 60 attorneys in the room. We were the only non-attorneys in there. And they called us up first. Went up to the table. Now this was dealing with a matter dealing with my straw for a credit card, alleged credit card issue. So we sit at the table, just like this. They had 2 tables like this, one over there, and they had a couple of people, I guess from the clerk's office. You never know who these people are. So the lady said, well, she called the case out, went up and sat down, and she said, who are you? I said, well, I'm Minister Chere Muchurail. And she looked at the paper, she said, well, where's so-and-so, speaking of the straw? I said, well, what you're looking at on that piece of paper is a non-natural entity. She said, what? I said, that's a non-natural entity that you're looking at on the paper. She said, you mean a fiction? I said, yeah. And before she could even say anything else, I motioned to the attorney. I said, well, where's the bank? Just like that. The attorney didn't say a word. So the lady's going to try to answer for the attorney. She's going to say, well, you know, the bank hired this law firm to represent. I said, that's impossible. She looked at me, I said, the bank is a fictitious entity too. How can they hire somebody? And right then, she clammed up because she didn't know what to say. She said, oh, this is in the paperwork? I said, yeah. She said, thank you, have a good day. In about 45 days, they dismissed the case. Just from me attacking the caption. Just like that.
Peace and gratitude to everybody contributing to the gathering today. Assalamu alaikum. 2 questions, one's for Dr. Ali, second one's for anybody who has any ideas. Quickly, are you planning to return to the Law Masters course?
Yes, post-summit.
Okay, yes sir. Second question is, does anyone have any ideas on strategy to counter the Ebola operation on the continent? Did you hear that?
To counter the Ebola?
Yeah, it's Ebola. Yeah.
On the continent.
Did a lecture on that last week.
You know, we did some readings, and the reading said, yeah, you got it, but they're not going to listen to you. It's a, you know, this is international now. Ebola can be handled, all they have to do is call. All they have to do is call, and you can handle Ebola, SMA, whatever name, disease, symptom that you want to call it. But yes, we have the answer.
And to add on, just so people don't get spooked out by these said mass reports of disease, like a few years ago they had what was it, H1N1? All right. And this is, we go into detail more tomorrow. Any one of these microbial said viral entities, the only way they can proliferate in a body, just chemically, is if your body has enough toxins in the form of specific things that we call amidogens or amines. Amines come from overcooked foods, flesh, starch, and these things. And what they do is they bind to carbon compounds called carboxylates to attempt to shut down the body's defense systems. And the body's defense systems is this electrical and magnetic energy. So it binds to the things that we call melanin or carbon compounds. If your carbon compounds, which you get from fruits and vegetables, outweigh the amount of toxins in your body, it has no environment to proliferate in. Can't get it. So these things are like the Wizard of Oz thing again. You know, they flashing these things and they saying it's an outbreak. But the only reason there's an outbreak is because people don't know how to eat. If people had enough knowledge about nutrition and how it really applied to warding these things off, Ebola is not an issue except for people who have toxic diets.
It's the cause that's the problem. Everything that's being addressed are symptoms. And they're using some sort of treatment to get rid of the symptom. It's almost like you have a faucet on your kitchen sink, right? And it's overflowing. And somebody comes into your house and says, do you have any mop to get that water up? And you say, yeah, let me go get in the closet and get some towels so I can mop that water up. So after a while you mop it up, but more water keeps coming because they're not dealing with what's causing the water on the floor. And all you have to do to get rid of the water is remove the cause, and the cause is the faucet. And it's the same with any type of disease symptom. Once you remove the cause, and it's your lifestyle, our lifestyle. Once you remove that cause, then where's the symptom going to go? Whether it's diet, you know, you're sleeping. You know, so many people nowadays on the nighttime schedule, meaning they do everything at night. Everything. Work, sleep, play, eat, everything at night. So that innervates your body. It decreases your nervous electrical energy. Thus, your organs don't get the charge needed to function properly. If they don't get the charge, then the waste is going to remain in your body. And compounding the cause of what you keep putting in your body, and elements like not getting enough rest, not getting enough water, not getting enough sleep, not fast. You know, we eat too much. How many of us eat every day? Right? Everybody. You know, sometimes you have to fast. Allow the body to cleanse itself out. And, you know, how many of us like to get a real good cuss on? Cuss? Right? You know, you want to cuss, you know, something happened, but you have to have emotional poise. You know, we're people that have to, at all times, be non-emotional. I mean, don't get me wrong, if something is happening, you have to deal with it, but you can't allow that emotion to control and dictate your behavior because they got something for that too. So a lot of elements in a coordinated fashion to deal with everything. And once you get your life in that order, it's real simple to maintain it. Don't get under the bus and ask how to come from under it. Right? Be on top, and at all times, if something needs to be tweaked, just tweak it.
Okay. Nobody else can speak through these because we're going to be over time, and we already being overcharged.
So these last four.
Thank you for answering my questions today. Dr. Ali, could you just go over a little bit of the alchemy and the energy and the best way to use it?
Okay, the alchemy and the energy. The alchemy is made from a natron-based tincture solution with herbs that are made to speed up the process of getting rid of nitrogen out of the body, which is waste. So people who have excessive waste, who are making a transition diet, it's an amplification to help you detox the cells. And that's it. And the energy is designed with fruit, glucose, to give your body extra energy for people who have chronic fatigue syndrome and problems. I have a whole plan and regimen that I deal with the people, and if you read this book, Black Biology and Nutrition, I have 7 classifications of diet, and the worst ones, F, D, and E, are the ones that I use the supplementation. Once you get to diet C, you don't ever need supplementation again. C, B, and A, which is raw food and fruitarian, and, you know, what we call the non-DNA diet. So 3 times a day, sunrise, noon, and sunset is when we prescribe for you to take those, and it's plant-based medicine to help speed up specifically, and we'll talk about this in more detail tomorrow, but you need to know what's happening in your body. And what's happening is the body, when it gets over-impacted by waste, needs rest away from the toxins and you need to do it in proper fashion. I've had people who come to me who have stage 4 cancer, and I told them that they need to detox slowly, and they went to some people who tried to speed it, and they ended up dying because the body could not take that much waste being inside of the lymphatic and the circulatory system. So there's ways for you to do that, to gradually move towards the health that you want. You can't be eating flesh this day with stage 4 cancer and try to eat a diet like I eat the next day, because the body's going to be in shock, because it's going to detox. But if it floods the body with too much toxins at one time, then it could cause a problem. So those are the 2 things with those products that you use it for.
But you said 3 times a day. Now is that 1 drop, 2 drops? How many drops? It is drops.
It's food, so usually I say 3 to 6 drops, but it's literally plant food.
Okay, it's 3 to 6 drops each time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Peace, God.
Peace, brother.
I had a couple dreams concerning inventions, and I've been dreaming about them consistently, and I looked it up and I haven't found anything like it. But I don't know really what to do with it in regards to the protection of it. 2 inventions, and then also from a technology standpoint, 2 different apps, whether it be from phone or a computer. So I really need to figure out what to do with this, because when something comes to you so much, eventually you see it, because the universe is trying to push it in here. So I definitely want to get with you to figure out what to do, especially on the technology, because I really don't know where to go with it, because I'm not a technical person in that regard. But it came to, one came to me via conversations of me being an accountant. The other came via me and a friend of mine was having a conversation, and it came up when we started processes, but we don't really know how to take it to the next level. So definitely need assistance with that.
Are you a national?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's the first major step. So the next thing would be to put it on paper.
We put it on paper.
Rough draft, and then we can, as a sidebar, go over how to properly position yourself to execute it without people stealing it from you. Because that's what's going on out here. You're dealing with parasites, so they're looking to suck on something. So that's how come they have these programs, send us your invention and this and that and the other. See, they're just ready to steal your ideas, and then at a certain point, push you out of the picture. So, you got to protect whatever intellectual rights come through your spirit. So, we can talk to you about that. We don't want to take up too much time.
If you email me the day that you had it on, I could use your birth information to see how it applied to your energies on the day that it happened, because every day is guided by energy. So if you can email me that, I can do a reading for that particular day for you and just forward you what the communication meant to you.
Okay. All right, what I did just because I didn't know what to do, was did a poor man's copyright, where you type it up, you put it in an envelope, and you mail it to yourself certified. That's what I was told years ago concerning putting my poor man's copyright. And the second thing, real quick, I went to court on a traffic ticket that was included in the bankruptcy. When I went for the judge, he said he tried it anyway. And so he's having me come back to court, I think in 2 weeks. And I'm like, I did the affidavit showing that it was with bankruptcy, and I gave the exhibits, A, B, C, everything showing that it was with bankruptcy. He said, this has nothing to do with this. And he's saying he's trying it anyway. So I really don't know what to do with that. So that would be the other question.
Yeah, that would be the issue of mandatory judicial notice, because when one judge makes an order, and it's a higher judge, it's res judica. So there's a few instruments you can use. Sometimes you can use a writ of mandamus, and other times you can use mandatory judicial notice, which actually neutralizes the judge. So if he does give some illicit action, you can make other actions to have him recused and even penalized by his local governing board for violating judicial canon in that particular state. So he can be penalized. So if you've given him notice of the affidavits, I know I gave you some affidavits to give him notice. Yes. Give him notice, just let him hang yourself. So let him go ahead, let him do the thing, which is probably make a judgment on top of another judgment, and that's your evidence that he did it, and then we can do a writ of mandamus, or we can do mandatory judicial notice, and we can make note of that action to the board that governs that particular judge that he's violating judicial canon, to have him either recuse or remove from office for the flagrancy on the judicial canon. That's for any judge that goes against another judge, especially if it's a judge that's higher. You have to get the evidentiary evidence that he takes the action to solidify his action, which is usually through a transcript or order that he carries out.
So if I go to court and he orders X amount, because in New Jersey, one of the things I noticed that they do, they'll tell you if, at the moment that they make their judgment, you to go to the window and pay. Or they send a warrant for your arrest.
Okay, so if he makes the judgment and he says that you have to pay at that time, just say, I have no problem paying if you can produce it in your statutes where it says that I have to do that.
And throughout the whole, if he proceeds, throughout that whole proceeding, beginning, middle, and end, objection. Objection. Objection.
And if you don't know Brother Rafiq, are you still here, brother? Brother Rafiq, are you in Jersey or PA?
I'm in Pennsylvania, but
no, the case, it's in Jersey, right?
Jersey, yes. It's in West.
Do you know anything about the objection processes in Jersey, brother? You don't know, you know PA.
I know federal rules of evidence, so once you know the federal rules, you can get it.
Okay. Just have a talk with Rafiq, because we're riding with him. And then if he can give me something else to add on to it, I'll just share it with you too. But you can talk to Brother Rafiq, because he's good on the process of objection to judges. Because you want to object, because objection is the standard operating procedure for you to know that the judge is doing something, or you are citing the judge is doing something on the record. Yeah, exactly. And you are not agreeing to it. So even if he does carry out something, it's non-consensual on your behalf, even if it's something to penalize you. Right, exactly. And that's the only way you can appeal those particular processes.
Peace, God.
Peace, family.
It's beautiful to be here today. I'm glad, and I'm sorry I missed some of the things that happened today. So pardon me if my question was priorly addressed previously, but it's really regarding the Ferguson topic that you addressed, Dr. Ali. It was really regarding the Ferguson topic in general. So I think I might be right on target. And it's really this. Since that young man was shot that put people in an uproar, about 20 other black men have been shot in this country, right? Point blank, in violation of laws and rules and even police procedure. But it is being done to people who have not nationalized and therefore have little legal recourse. And so I'm really glad to hear you saying, if you're interested, ARNA has a position on this, has a solution, and is willing to step in and intervene and provide assistance. I'm just thinking about this more broadly though, and how significant this phenomenon is. I'm reading a really old book, but what is his name? John Perkins' book, the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I found really fascinating, because more than anybody, he lays out exactly the inside perspective of here's how we go about stealing everybody's everything across the planet. Country by country, process by process. We used to have to use wars to accomplish this, and now here's exactly how we do it economically. Right. And it's a beautiful strategy. So anyway, I just wanted to give folks an opportunity, each of you, to address these concerns with me. One is the reality of so-called police brutality here, and the challenge that we have of either nationalizing our entire base, right, which is a challenge, or finding other ways to see to it that the young men in this building can safely get home, which is always a challenge for us, right? In these day and age, in this day and age, the kind of things that we can do to address that. And then even more broadly, if you have time, the bigger picture, which is this one for me. In South Africa right now, after apartheid, the economic inequality has actually gotten worse than it has than before there was, when there was a clear apartheid structure functioning in place under revolt. But since that time, those in power have actually been able to extract more funds from the folks who are now free. the war in Palestine, I mean, the whole Gaza-Israel conflict, these are Aboriginal people on their Aboriginal lands who are being challenged like crazy, right? So I'm just saying, in general, all Aboriginal people are going to have to address the challenge, ultimately, of folks with weapons, right? With the Ferguson folks looking up at machine guns, snipers, and bullets, and trying to say, this is our land. We have a right to be here. We can protest. We can stand in this building and do what we do. And at the same time, we have to get to the point where we can do that in a way where these folks have to respect that reality. And history shows us that that's not an easy challenge, clearly, right? It's a war, right? It's a battle. And so as we approach this topic here at a summit of Aboriginals across the planet, as far as I'm concerned, I would just want to hear our leadership speak to these challenges and perspectives on addressing them.
Right. We went over the whole Ferguson thing earlier, point by point. And the issue is we can't respond with hysteria to these things. We have to have a plan. We orchestrate the plan. We assess its effectiveness. And we keep the things that are effective and we add on to what's not effective by implementing more effectiveness. If someone is taking our life, that means we haven't employed the ways to protect it. That's simple. So our job is to employ every way to protect our people. But we can't protect our people who are not our people, in the sense of deciding definitively that they don't want any part of that in all the ways that we cannot want any part of that. And what are all our alternatives? Can we have that communicated to us, and then what do we do? So our offer to Ferguson earlier was, we'll go there, we'll nationalize. Our nationalization is free. People pay constitutional dues, but our nationalization is free. We go out there, we nationalize you, we'll set up a local jurisdiction like we have here, and we get you into a position so you're not at a club, you're not going out to buy no cigars, you're not doing any of those things, and you put yourself in the best conditions and understanding the dynamics of how some of these things can even come about by us being in those dysfunctional positions, and leave you with the decision to say, we're indigenous, we want to practice indigenous culture, we want to practice indigenous social political status, and we want to build our communities up. And these are the small steps that we got to go to the larger steps. That's how you solve that problem. Without nothing, no hysteria. And we solve the problem by gradually making ourselves stronger than what has been the aggressor on us. And that's just a responsibility to get to that particular point. And we have to focus on and do it, and that's it. There's nothing else to say about that. That's not even an elaboration on that. It's just, we got to do it. Last question. So we can get out of here.
Last question. This question is about the Constitution of Army, right? Mm-hmm. This is in Unit 1, and it deals with the general description of the 12 council governments. Mm-hmm. And speak to the mic.
Yeah, speaking to that mic so we can hear you.
Okay, this is the Justice Ministerial Council. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the last sentence, it speaks about being able to, the power of the people to properly and peacefully handle disputes is given due consideration. Now that particular phrase, that due consideration, how does that interchange between due process and adjudication, selective incorporation, dealing with private administrative processes? Is the due consideration and process, the due process, is that different, or is that something?
Yeah, I think you're talking two different jurisdictions. You're talking about due process in the United States of America?
Yes.
And ARNA? That's two different jurisdictions.
Well, that's just two different jurisdictions. Due consideration and due process. Are those two different jurisdictions? Due consideration and due process.
It depends on where you're talking about it. Because you have to find those words in either jurisdiction to say what they mean. You follow me?
Yeah.
Due process in the United States of America has variant meanings, whether you pull it from the 5th Amendment or the 14th Amendment. You follow me?
Yes.
I don't even think they have the word due consideration inside of there.
I didn't see
there. So when you see due process, one is for 5th Amendment people who have a status, and one is through selective incorporation, 14th Amendment. The due consideration there, of course, is a completely different jurisdictional discussion.
So it's on an Aboriginal level where...
That's for only members of ARNA.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with their, no other nation.
So to make it clear, in honor, we don't deal with due process of, we don't deal with due process.
Yeah, we deal with due process. Conceptually, we deal with due process.
Okay.
Right. The due process are in the articles, which are the natural rights that the nation state is supposed to protect. See, we can't give members of honor rights. They're born with rights, and that's the confusion. You're born with rights. The job of a body politic is to protect the rights that you're already born with, not to give you rights. Because once they start giving you rights, then that's when you become an artificial person, which is what has happened to the African American. We're going to give you the right to vote. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you these things. So we have to have a body politic that represents us, so we can say, no, these are natural rights, and you are going to implement protections for them wherever we are doing it at. And by doing it as a body politic, you have more power than doing it as individuals and saying, I have the right, I have the right, I have the right.
And lastly, as a nation, this is honor would be a nation state. And like the United States of America, they also have nation states. Will honor treaty with, let's say, the chief executive officer of the United States? Will the chief of honor, our elected chief, treaty with that nation also? And we draft up a treaty, like a nowadays treaty between the two nations?
If that moment comes, I don't know. I mean, it depends. We'll make treaties with anybody if it's some type of benefit for our group. The purpose of a treaty is usually to end something or start something. And usually it's trade and commerce, or sometimes, reciprocal agreements for a lot of different things. But, I mean, to answer the question, the purpose of treaty says that we would treat with anybody if it's for our protection and interest. If it's not, there's no reason to do it. Okay, brothers and sisters, we have come to that moment. I want to give a shout out to Van Mata. Yeah, I'm about to get you, brother. I'm about to get you because you're about to take us home with the mic. I want to give you first your award because we have an award for you. I want to read it. We gave you the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey Award to the elder in the community who displays and executes the message and work of unity and who counsels the younger leadership by example and guidance in overcoming the obstacles associated with unification. Brother, we want to give you this. There's no elder that I know. So you got the floor, brother. Please bring us home on this unity, this message of unity, and what we need to look forward to. Zulu in the house.
Yes, sir. First, giving honor to the great Supreme Force, to whom is called by many names. I greet all my brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. Hotep. Free the land. Y'all heard a lot of great information here tonight. We got to understand, and overstand that we are at war. That we are dealing with genocide being put upon so-called black people, so-called brown people, so-called red people. Understand how they're causing confusion between so-called black people, not understanding or overstanding who they are as a people and their status. Causing confusion, thinking that Latino people are different from the so-called black people. Causing confusion with self-hate of each other between our brothers and sisters and our sisters and our brothers. Boy, Lucifer never sleeps. And you got to know that Lucifer never sleeps. And you got to know that his demon craft His disciples are not sleeping. And many of his disciples look just like you and her. Meaning your so-called ministers, imams, rabbis, and then some. In your church, your monstrates, and your temples. Why it's so hard for our people to recognize that you are the indigenous of the whole earth? Why our people can't recognize what was you called before 1492? What is the confusion for each one of you as our brothers and sisters supposed to be on the streets teaching other brothers and sisters? Each one teach one, feed one, and help one. They like it when you just come in, you're going to hear the word of these great people, powerful knowledge, then we all go home and back to the same BS that we've been doing all the rest of the week. Genocide. Having all our people think you just so-called black, you just so-called brown, you just so-called red, scared to speak that you are indigenous more from your last empire that you ruled from. Brother asked about, should we change our name? Every so-called black man or woman should change their name. If you can't remember your name like they used to give you the Nation of Islam or X, go and look up some names and put it on yourself. And teach the family who you are as a people. Yes, we come from Africa, not as indigenous name. Had many indigenous names like Akibulan. Yes, we was in Africa over here when this was part of West Africa. When you look under the Pangrea and put all the maps together. I was in Brazil trying to wake up our brothers and sisters down there, knowing that they're the indigenous of the land, and stop saying that y'all came over here as slaves. Most people don't even know to look up the etymology word of what's a slave, or the word aliens. Every time we use these type of words, we think of extraterrestrials or other beings coming from other places. And even if they come, they're going to try to put genocides on them. This is not no joke no more. The great supreme force to whom we call by many names have given so many great leaders and teachers, and we still playing games. Still playing games with the children. The great Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us we must build our own schools, our own hospitals. Y'all got the money, but we still playing games with our people. We love to come and hear the great sermons and teachings of many of our great leaders and teachers, but don't want to get up and do nothing for self. Why is that? Chaos and confusion all over this country, all over this earth. It always takes a problem to wake our people up. Staten Island, Ferguson, that's not the last. Ebola, you don't even know what they put in your fish, what's coming out of your faucet of your water that you drink. Don't know how to take care of natural health, that they're attacking now all the herbal stores because they don't want you to go getting seeds or natural stuff to take care of your natural self. Want you all on the pharmaceutical doctors. And we can't just have spirituality and know nothing about law. Imam, rabbi, preacher, minister,